This is an SM Media production. Hi folks, and welcome to a special 2023 Cheltenham Festival preview show right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. We are now closer to the opening day. We are 2 days away on the show to the start of the Cheltenham Festival, and myself and Calum are delighted to have some special guests with us. First of all, Calum from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin. Calum, it's a big show. We need the best minds in the business to help us with this.
Yeah, maybe two of them are here. We'll wait and see. But it'll be exciting. It's an exciting festival. All of the championship races are quite open this year. There's not as many odds-on favourites that they usually attend. So there'll be kind of good opinions and maybe quite a lot of difference. Keeps things fresh.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start with introducing our two special guests in this week's show. We're delighted to join. You'll hear him sometimes on William Hill Radio. It is a pleasure to welcome onto the show Craig Forsyth. Craig, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite. Looking forward to it, Scott. You guys do a great job promoting the lower leagues in Scotland. It's something that's quite close to my heart. So happy to help, and hopefully we can find the listeners a few winners along the way.
Absolutely. Find yourselves winners as well, because we're all punters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And by popular demand, we had him on a couple of years ago for our first Cheltenham preview show, and we're delighted to get him on again. It is a pleasure to welcome. You'll hear him on Cheltenham Chat on YouTube. Mark MacKay. Mark, it's a pleasure to have you on again. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be back, Scott, and hopefully we can find some winners today for everyone. We did well the last time, especially Gary, really, but yeah, we did well last time, so hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is obviously going to be a busy show. We're going to preview all the big races over the week, and at the end we'll get some other picks in the hurdle races and chase races, and we'll go through the panel and get their best bets, a lay and an each way. We're better than at the races, so we'll do the similar ending to at the races. Let's get into the races. We'll start with the champion hurdle on the Tuesday, the first championship race. Constitution Hill leads the market at 1-3. Obviously been an absolute monster in his 5 starts so far since going over hurdles. State Man, a 4-time Grade 1 winner, 11-4. Vauban, Honeysuckle, I like to move it, in around 10, 12, 14-1. Honeysuckle's not going. And 20-1 Bar. Calum, let's start with you for this. Are we just looking at a potential monster who's rightfully 1-3?
I think so, yeah. There's 28 races. This is probably, I'm starting off with probably the straightforward one here. Shortest price horse of the week. And rightfully so. He's a very impressive Supreme winner. John Bond by 22 lengths. He's debuted twice. She's a former champion hurdle winner in her own right. So, and then she came out last time out and beat some decent males. Pretty convincing to suggest that she hasn't gone backwards. So, yeah, only mishap in history here can really deny him. The only Supreme winner to back up the season after and win a championship was Bull in 1971. It's not a traditional route and it's hard to do. But he looks like he's got gears. His mentality is class. He's uncomplicated. The rider knows him really well. Slow pace, fast paced, bag ground. I think he's probably got all the answers to cover State Man. He's £6 clear off, and State Man £7 clear of the rest. So yeah, I think State Man will just have to chase him home. It's going to be Constitution Hill's toughest task today, and just kind of hope that Constitution Hill's just going to go through the leagues and maybe be kind of one of the best horses we've seen and go a long way to proving it.
Yeah, Craig, Constitution Hill, obviously he's been unbeatable since going these monstrous performance last year on the Supreme Novices Hurdles. Probably one of the best performances we ever saw at the festival. But are we underestimating State Man? He's won 3 times. How many horses win the Morgiana, the Matheson, and the Irish Champion Hurdle, on top of winning a county hurdle last year, and go off comfortably second favourite for the champion hurdle. It doesn't happen very often. Is this all Constitution Hill, or is State Man maybe flying under the radar?
No, I think it's all Constitution Hill. You know, he's well above the level and form State Man's posted. Last year when he won the Supreme, you know, he posted the highest figure of a Supreme winner for many a year, if not the best ever. And he's continued that into open company this year, winning the fighting fifth in the Christmas hurdle in fine style. He's got such a high cruising speed. You know, I would expect State Man to make the run-in. You know, he's going to have to try and run the finish out with Constitution Hill, and I think he's going to come up a long way short. And if there's any betting angles into the race, it could be in the without markets, because there'll be plenty of those on offer. Constitution Hill, a short price. State Man, you know, if he goes to try and win a champion hurdle, he could pay the price for trying to take on Constitution Hill. So it could open the door for a little bit of value in the without market. I'd like to move it. King Will Hurdle winner, possibly in there. And Nicky Henderson's other horse, who could be a big price in that market. Absolutely loves Cheltenham, his first street. I wouldn't write him off, but he does have a county hurdle entry as well. So plans still to be decided for first street. But it's all about one horse, and he's a superstar, isn't he?
Yeah, he is that. Mark, is there a betting angle in this race, or do you just sit back and enjoy?
No, only the without markets you could bet in. I mean, but I honestly think that this is a race where you just have to hope that we see the superstar we think we're going to see. There's no such word as a certainty in racing, but what I've seen, I want him to do it. I want to see a superstar, and there's only one horse that can be a real superstar, and it's Constitution Hill. I hope he wins the way we think he'll win, because he just looks so relaxed. He's won so easily, and I think when he beat Epitome as easily in the fighting fifth, I just thought, wow, and I just hope he does show us what we think we're going to see. I actually thought I'd go to Cheltenham just for the Tuesday, just to see Constitution Hill, because I hope he's going to win it very easily. I hope so, but you never know. But I'd hope so.
Calum, is there a betting angle in this race for you? Like, I look at Vauban at 10-1 and think, is this race going to cut up? Because I don't see the I like to move angle at all. I think Vauban's better than I like to move it. I think Vauban would be winning at Wincanton easily. Where do you see is there a bet to have? And if so, where would you have it?
I would just stick the front two and just have the forecast. You probably have maybe evens in that Constitution Hill leading home State Man. I think the battle for third is potentially, but I mean, I'd just look at the front two here, really. I like to move it. Does have good track form. There seems to be a clamour for him. If the ground was good, I would probably have him just over Vauban, but I wouldn't have much of an opinion on the race for third, to be honest.
So we'll go round the panel, get our votes in. Craig, Constitution Hill?
Yeah, definitely.
Mark?
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
And I think Constitution Hill will beat State Man. And I might have a wee play in, if Vauban's under odds on the day without those two, I might have a wee play in him. Let's move into the Champion Chase on the Wednesday. This is a very interesting race that's kind of came to life after the Clarence House. Edward Stone sits at 13-8 now. Energamine 15-8. Edward Tajit, the Clarence House winner, 11-2. Gentleman to Me 8-1. 10-1 Bar. Craig, let's start with you. We obviously the Clarence House has moved from Ascot to Cheltenham. Edward Tajit wasn't even entered, and now has obviously beaten the front two in the market, and it's opened up a wee bit. But I'm surprised to see Edward Stone favourite, I would say.
Edward Stone was a horse that I took a while to warm to. Obviously, he showed a lot of ability over hurdles, but he was an early horse over hurdles, wasn't he? And then he started his chasing career first time around, and it didn't go to plan. Spell back over hurdles, came back as a second season chaser, fell at Warwick first time up, and from there he's just gone from strength to strength. Won the Arkle in good style last year. He's been very impressive this year. You know, Alan King made it clear that he wasn't 100% cherry ripe. He'd had a little setback before that Clarence House, and he gave Editor de G a 10-length head start. And you know, when they were going through the gears, the pace was lifting. He was asked to go and close a 10-length gap just to get competitive in the race, and he must have used up all his energy. Editor de G found a little bit more close to the line. I thought it was a massive run. I really did. the more and more I look at this race, Scott, the more and more I think Edwardstone's a good thing. You know, he's jumping solid. He's guaranteed a good pace to aim at, which brings out the best in him. Gentlemen, to me and Editor De Gea are guaranteed to provide us with a really strong run race here. And I think that will really play into Edwardstone's hands. And, you know, I think he should be a little bit shorter than he probably is at 7-4 at the moment.
Mark, I think if you'd given Tom Cannon a ride back any time in his career, it would probably be the Clarence House at Cheltenham. As Craig says, he gave Editor De Gea far too much of a start and was obviously closing, and another day would have got the victory. Do you see Craig's angle with Edwardstone being a good thing? The Arkle record going for a champion chase is obviously something I'm kind of looking towards, but Edwardstone, is he good enough?
Well, I've underestimated the horse continually. I paid for it last year in the Arkle because I didn't think he was good enough, and he was. And I continued into this season's Tingle Creek, and he was good enough again. And I thought that was a stunning performance in the Tingle Creek, actually. And Energumen's champion chase fell apart. I think Edwardstone was trying to beat Energumen last time out, and really, I think he just let Editor De Gea get a bit far away because he thought he'd pick him up quite easily. I think Edwardstone as well. I mean, I hate tipping favourites, but I have to come round to this horse. He's like winning his races. His jumping's pretty slick. He was great at Sandown. Last season in the Arkle, he was really good, and I think he'll win as well. I think Edwardstone will win this. The fly in the ointment is Gentleman to Me, who beat him last season, but maybe by then Edwardstone was just primed for Cheltenham, and by the time he got to entry, it was a bit over the top. For me, it's all about Edwardstone. I think he's a lot better. Just because he's a British horse, he's been underestimated. He's going in against the Mullins favourite, who, you know, he won 9 of the Grade 1s last year, so people will pick up on that. And I think Energumen will go off favourite and Edwardstone will probably drift, but I'd still be with Edwardstone myself.
Calum, you've been very much in the Energumen camp from the start of the season, but Edwardstone, a horse that you've maybe not been in the side of from last year's Arkle, has just come out and won the Tingle Creek, and then he wins a kind of finishes stronger than Energumen in the Clarence House. Are he beginning to flip-flop as Edwardstone now the bet here?
He's the most solid horse in the race, I think. His overall profile is quite impressive. He did shape like the best horse in the Clarence House, but I just don't think he's a superstar. How much more potential is there for, a horse that was okay over hurdles, second season novice. He did tip up at Kempton as well, so he does have a mistake in him at times. I just don't think a horse that's got a record that's 9 from 23 under rules should really be anywhere near 6-4 favouritism for a champion chase. Energumen's 8 out of 10 on the rules. I know the white paint excuse, he looked a little bit lethargic, but I think Paul Townend trapped him in the end and tried to restrain him. I don't think that's the way he wants to be ridden. But he might be a bit more prominent, try and make a bit more use of him. He's a high cruising speed. I would try and use his stride a little bit better. I think he might be able to reverse the form. So I would trust Mullins to get him back to A1. And the camp afterwards were pretty, they were tossing about the white paint excuses and stuff like that. And I don't think they were that worried by it. I think they let him a week behind because of the reschedule stuff. And I don't think they did much of him. So I'll just stick with the defending champion at the moment. But I would really respect him. There's plenty of others here that are dangerous as well.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm still looking around to Edwardstone. I just think I keep thinking as well, obviously, like the performance in the Tingle Creek where we completely wrote him off. I didn't fancy him at all going into that. Yeah, he should have won the last day. Editor De Gea, he gave Editor De Gea far too much of a lead. I think Gentleman to Me is the fly in the ointment because Gentleman to Me and Editor De Gea going to break each other's hearts. And you've got something from something like Edwardstone coming from the back. I think they won that Arkle last year. He jumped superbly. I think we were worried last year as well. Was he able to jump the fences? There was 13 fences in the Arkle last year, and I think he jumped nearly every one perfect. I'm beginning to side with Edwardstone. Energumen, did we make too much of his performance last year? I'm not sure. I think I'm just going to side with Edwardstone at the moment, but a 13-8 is a little bit short. So we'll go around the panel. Craig, very much in Edwardstone camp.
Yeah, like most of us here on the panel, I think we've all opposed Edwardstone at some stage. But we've all warming to him, and I think he's solid option, because I upgraded his Clarence House form a little bit from the bare form.
Mark, Edwardstone.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'll be parting with money on it, but yeah, I think Edwardstone just.
Calum, you're in Energamine.
Yeah, Energamine. I'll give a shout out to Grenetine as well. He's got the same rating as Edwardstone, and he flopped at Newbury, but I think Paul Nicholls kind of had him bounced a little bit. I think he left his kind of season really excellent at the start, so I think he knows how to get him cherry right. So I think at a wild price, I think he's a little bit interesting.
And I am going for Edwardstone. We'll move into the Stairs Hurdle. This was a race that looked like it was going to be a shocker a few weeks ago, but it's came to life a little bit. We'll go through the market. Blazing Cal 3-1, Tia Hupu, Marie's Rock 4-1, Home by the Lee 5-1, 6-1, Flooring Porter 10-1, Classical Dream and Gold Tweet, Paisley Park 14-1, and 16-1 Bar. Mark, I think this race has opened up a little bit. You've got the introduction of Blazing Cow, obviously what he did in the Boyne Hurdle. Tia Hupu looked really good in the Galmoy. Marie's Rock obviously looks like she's going here. And all of a sudden, from a few weeks ago, where it looked a terrible race, it's now came to life a wee bit.
It certainly has come to life a bit. Nobody's mentioned the ground much yet, but it does look like it's going to be, good to soft, maybe even softish with the rain they're getting. That would play into maybe Hupu's hands. But I've always been a fan of Flooring Porter, and I'm just hoping that Gavin Cromwell will have gotten back for his tilt at 3 in a row. I mean, Blazing Carl, all this stuff from Charles Barnes, I don't believe a lot of it. I think he'll be cherry ripe on the day. It's just he hasn't beaten a whole lot in his races. He's won them well, but he hasn't beaten much. I'd prefer to go with Flooring Porter. I mean, I think they have his number, that if they hassle him on the pace, they can get him beaten. But I don't know. I don't think he's been properly right this season. And if Gavin Cromwell's prepared to go there, he must have him pretty much right for this. This has been the target all season, and I'll just stick with the current champion. I've been with him all the way along this journey, so I'm not deserting him now. Blazing Carl could be anything. Tehupu might get his ground, and he'd be a big danger if he did. The worry is Marie's Rock getting £7 would have been a big worry for me, but as the ground softens, I think the likelihood of her running is less and less. The more soft it gets, the less likely they are to take the risk. So I'll just stick with Flooring Porter for me.
Calum, if there's a horse in the past 2 years that's probably been as kind to you than Flooring Porter, then I'm yet to find it. He's won the past 2 Stairs Hurdles. You've tipped him both years. You've tipped him again this year. It's been a very different preparation in terms of he's not won, and Gavin Cromwell seems in a race against time to get him into this race. Where are you with Flooring Porter? Are you looking elsewhere, or are you sticking with him?
I'm a little bit concerned by the disrupted prep. I wouldn't let him go on back though, so he's definitely going to be in the equation for me. He's back-to-back champion, so he obviously merits respect, but I think these kind of disrupted preparations, it's kind of summed up the trend of how hard it is for these 3 milers to keep going to the well all the time. Because 7 of the last 8 winners of the Stairs Hurdle have either been age 6 or 7. Older horses don't seem to be much of a force, and the only winner of the last decade over the age of 7 was Thistlecrack. It's become a kind of a race with two up and are coming in pretty top form. Tia Hoop and Blazing Cal. Blazing Cal's had a similar difficult prep, but he showed his class in the Boyne Hurdle by winning that pretty easily. Charles Burns did say that he had got him fit though. He was quite far forward in his plans there, and he's a nasty cut as well. So he's kind of back in that zone of kind of being maybe in a race against time a little bit. If anyone can get him there though, it's probably Charles Burns though. I do like Tehupu though. Lord the colours of Honeysuckle in the Hatton's Grace with a really late withering run, and then won a slowly running mile race, but it did smack of a very good visual, a really genuine kind of up and coming promising young stayer. And he was back to the champion hurdle as well, but kind of laid the ground. Don't think he's that ground dependent, but he wouldn't want the word soft in it. But they generally get it well watered, and there's a bit of unsettled forecast. So I don't think there will be much ground excuses for any horse really over the 4 days if it's well managed. So out of the faves, I would say Tia Hoopu, but I'm definitely going to have a save on Flown Porter anyway.
Craig, where are you at with the Stairs hurdle? There is a lot of ground questions. Likes a Tia Hoopu. I think we all think he maybe likes it soft. Home by the Lee's been a steady improver as well. He's obviously won the Lismullen, then won at Christmas. What do you think of this year's Stairs hurdle? Was there anything kind of leaping out to you?
It isn't, Scott. I'm struggling badly to find an angle into the race, to be perfectly honest. Blazing Cal's the one horse that's got plenty of upside to him. He's the improving horse, but as Calum said there, he's been up for the cut since he won the Boyne Hurdle. He's had an infection. I believe he's going to have his fitness test on the Friday, to see if he's going to take his chance. He's the one that's open to improvement. He's the one that's potentially could be a real nice Grade 1 stayer. But of the rest, Maria's Rock, she's still to go and prove she's got the stamina for this. She remains in the Mares Hurdle. Interesting that Nicky Henderson said in his quotes in the paper on Thursday that he definitely wants to run in the stairs. Tiupu, you look at the races that he's been competing in this year, Hatton's Grace, and last time the Ballymore, no winners have run in those races on the way to a stairs hurdle. Home by the Lee is the one I keep coming back to, but when you watch last year's stairs hurdle, it's hard to envisage him finding the necessary improvement from there. Now, his Grade 1 victories this year suggest he has gone forward in the last 12 months, but has he gone forward enough to win a stairs hurdle? I think he'll hit the frame. I couldn't be confident he would win, but at 5-1 each way, if you force my hand, he would be the selection, but it would be a no betting race for me.
I tipped up a horse at this at 7-1. He's now double that price in Paisley Park. I still don't think, though, he's out the frame because he's capable. You see, he's capable of throwing in a crap run, but he's also capable of running an absolute stormer from time to time. Last year, he finished third. He won the Cleve Hurdle beforehand, though, when he was 10 lengths behind. And Ruby said after the race, I'm amazed they didn't pull him up. I wouldn't rule him out at 14-1 each way. I think Marie's Rock is a fly in the ointment because if she goes here, and she showed in the real kill that she looked as if she had the stamina to progress up this. I think Marie's Rock could just be too good getting that allowance here. Tia Hoopu, I think, is very much ground dependent. Blazing Cal, do you read into Charles Burns' bravado at times? I don't know. I maybe don't believe it as much as others, but I just think I kind of don't really have much of an opinion on this. But I just think Marie's Rock could just be better than the rest on the day. And Paisley Park at 14-1, I think it's a great each way play. There is another one, Calum, I want to get your thoughts on in particular, who's sitting at 20-1, who hasn't ran for Willie Mullins by the name of Asterion for Longe. That's a weird bit of placing if they're going to send him here.
Be good for Flown Porter there, because if Asterion for Longe is just sitting off Flown Porter, he might wipe out half the field by jumping right, so that'd be a plus. Yeah, it's just one of those kind of quirky entries that Willie Mullins likes to dive in here. Sir Gerhard had an entry here, St Sam as well, so he does like to throw one in the mix. Classical Dream is another one that's a race against time. I think he was just outstayed last time, and you just feel that that'll happen again with him. And there's those two French horses that are to be supplemented that are very young and unexposed, and we don't really know how good they are. And I think by Gold Tweet winning, there's another one that's apparently better than him that's going to be supplemented for this. It's called something from A anyway, but you wouldn't all of a sudden dismiss them because they've obviously been given heart by the kind of muddling form that this is, and they think that they're obviously good enough to have a real impact there. So the two young French horses could be anything as well. So there is plenty of ways to look into this. I think ground will be probably an important factor in the day as well.
Yep, absolutely. We'll just go around the panel and get our predictions. I'm going to go for Marie's Rock with Paisley Park each way. Mark, where are we at?
I'm a Cromwell fanboy. I'm a Flooring Porter.
Flooring Porter. Calum?
I'll give Mark Flooring Porter, so I'll go to you.
And Craig?
To reach away, home by the Lee.
Home by the Lee. Let's move into the big race on the Friday, the big race of the meeting, the Cheltenham Gold Cup. And it's a very, very competitive Gold Cup, even though we have a short price favourite. Gallop into Champs leads the market 6-4. Brave Man's Game 6-1. Defending champion Arkle 13-2. Statler Noble Yates 8-1. Conflated at 12s and 14-1 bar. Calum, Gallop into Champs. We have maybe seen a different Gallop into Champs this year. They're trying to make him more into a Gold Cup horse. The last day people picked at it said it was not the form you want getting into a Gold Cup. Others have said that's exactly what you need for a Gold Cup, the way he performed last time. Where are you at with this favourite?
I'm increasingly warming up to him, to be honest. The Irish Gold Cup was a bit more workmanlike, but you can see what the Mullins camp are trying to do here and trying to settle him down, learn how to race, and harness that kind of exuberance to actually get the trip. I thought that was a good sign, that Irish Gold Cup, the way he did go through it. You probably weren't happy on two because it's a short price favourite and you want a short price favourite to win well and win catching the eye. It was a bit workmanlike, it was a bit getting down and dirty and doing it, and then once he flew the last, he was away and gone. And again, Paul Townend found it difficult to pull him up. There have been conflicting reports about him post race coming out of that. Someone said that for a week he was absolutely shattered and legless, and some said he was bouncing afterwards. I mean, that's a kind of mixed review that you get from these kind of preview circuits sometimes. You just have to draw your own conclusion. I think the trip, I think it's 85% sure to get this trip, I would say. Only his exuberance, only maybe a bit airy early on over his fences might cause him trouble. I think you'd be more concerned about the first circuit than the second circuit with him. And I also think that he is definitely the one that could be like have a wow factor here. Because I think Appletard's got a lot to prove back from Haydock. I know Henry DeBrom has done it before, but he won that Haydock race last year with pretty much conviction. I don't think they were expecting that kind of team effort. It's taken a while to get him back this Christmas because of a wee knock. But if he bounced back to that level, he's obviously involved in a similar way to what Brave Man's Game, and he showed something different in terms of galloping to the line and seeing it out and maybe looking a bit stamina based and maybe looking a bit of a Gold Cup horse. The Irish Gold Cup and the King George are the two best bits of form. I can see why they're both at the head of the market.
Craig, let's look at Galloping Deschamps in line with everything else in the race. Galloping Deschamps is 6-4, Brave Man's Game 6-1. You've got a defending champion in there at 13-2. And you've also got a National Hunt Chase winner and a Grand National winner at 8-1. This is a very, very strange Gold Cup in terms of where winners are coming from.
I think it's the best renewal for many a year in terms of the competitive edge to it. But Mark touched on the ground earlier, and I don't think there's any race at the Cheltenham Festival that the ground is more important for than a Gold Cup, because you get two types of Gold Cup. You get one, despite the 3.25 mile distance, that you do need the speedier types. It does place more of an emphasis on speed, and falling into that bracket, you've got Galloping Deschamps, Brave Man's Game, Appletard. If it comes up softer, you've got your stairs, the less sexy horses, Noble Yates, Statler, and the Scottish horse, Ahoy Senior. So, the ground for me in this race will be very, very important. I'd love to see Ahoy Senior win it for Lucinda Russell. The yard is in fantastic form coming into the race at the time of recording. Last 5 horses have won. He loves the track. He comes here on the back of a really good prep, unlike last year. I think he's a big price, and Brave Man's Game would be the other that I like in the race. This year's King George was also a good renewal. He had a great battle with La Home Press up the straight. Unfortunately, he unseated late on, but he's seen it out really well, Brave Man's Game, and there's no better target trainer than Paul Nicholls for preparing a horse for the big day. So Brave Man's Game will be cherry ripe, but he probably wouldn't want the ground to be soft or worse. He would want at least a good to soft underfoot to be seen to best effect. He's a class horse coming. on the back of the King George success, and Ahoy Senior would be the other. That they would be the two highest up on my shortlist at this time.
Mark, where are you in terms of galloping Deschamps against the field? Do you think the favourite's a good thing, or are you looking elsewhere?
I think if he gets ground no worse than good to soft, I think he could be like Constitution Hill. I think he could give us a bit of a wow factor. I hope he does. I'm not with him. I've not backed him. I backed Startler at the start of the season at 20-1. I just don't like what I've seen from Startler this season. I thought he should have beaten Minolendo at Tremor, and he didn't. And then, although he stayed on, he was well beaten really by Galloping Deschamps. And he was getting no closer. He was just staying the same distance behind for the whole straight. Really, there are strong stairs in here. If it gets, softish, then you'd bring in Ahoy Senior for me. You really would. And then Noble Yates as well. It also depends on if something goes out. I don't see a whole lot of pace in the race, which is worrying as well, because that'll bring the speed horses like Braveman's Game and Galloping Deschamps. They'll like that, a Plutard. If there's no pace, they're going to, their speed's going to come to the fore. If it's a slog, like if there was a native river in here, then you'd bring in the Ahoy Seniors and Noble Yateses. And maybe it depends a lot. Will they sacrifice Minolendo to give, will he just put him out in front to try and steady it up and go a slow pace? But Ahoy Senior is, he's a strange horse. If he jumps well, he could, wreck this field. But he clouts at least 3 to 4 fences each race. So it's a very difficult race. I think, like Craig said, the ground's really important on this race. I wouldn't take the short price and Galloping Deschamps unless I was sure the ground was, no worse than good to soft. I think he's the most likely winner, though. But I haven't had any money apart from the bet I had at the start of the season on Startler, and I'm not really very confident with that bet. But I think the most likely winner is Galloping Deschamps, as long as it doesn't get deep.
Has he ever been a good price for this race, Galloping Deschamps? I think the shortest we've seen him was about 9-2. So I think that's always been the thing with me. Like, is he well worth being that short? He's obviously got enormous talent. We can see that. The only kind of under fences was last year's Turners, where he was travelling superbly up until the last and just missed his feet. I do think if everything goes right and he stays, he'll win. I don't understand how Minelando's 20-1. I think he's a very good each way bet. He's a former winner. They've obviously changed plans last year. He doesn't like this. He's never really good first time out his previous 2 years. He comes in the New Year's Day in Tremor and beats Startler, giving Startler weight. Getting weight from Startler, fair enough. But I still think 20-1 for a former winner who's been really good his first time out is a really good each way bet. But I do just think Galloping Deschamps could just be special. And if it goes in his favour and he stays the trip, I think he's going to win. So we'll go round the panel. Calum, where are we at? What's your pick for this race?
It would have to be Galloping Deschamps at the moment.
Galloping Deschamps. Craig, you're very much a British winner.
I am indeed. Brave Man's Game, marginally over Ahoy Senior.
Mark, where are we at?
Yeah, I think the favourite as well, Galloping Deschamps.
I think Galloping Deschamps and Manila Indo each way. We'll take a look at some of the other Grade 1s and other races before we get into the novice races. We'll start with the race after the Champion Hurdle, the Mares Hurdle. Probably one of the best renewals of this I think we've seen in a long, long time, possibly ever. Honeysuckle, 2-time Champion Hurdle winner. She is going to take a chance here, probably going to be her final race. She's 9-4 favourite. Epiton and Marie's Rock are 3-1 as well. We don't know if one or both of them are going to turn up. I think at least one will. Brandy Love and Love Envoy 6-1, Echoes and Rain 7s, Theatre Glory 9-1, 10-1 Bar. Craig, this is another very, very good renewal of a certain race. Honeysuckle, though, do you think she's past her best, or do you think she's well worth a chance here?
I think she's past her best. To be straight to the crunch. They had the option of Champion Hurdle, same as Epiton. Nobody wants to run up against Constitution Hill. But, both men for me are worth taking on here. Honeysuckle, I don't think she's finished off her races in anywhere near the same way as she was running 12 months ago. She was weak finishing last time. I think she's vulnerable. Epatant's obviously bumped into Constitution Hill and had easy pickings last time. You know, Nicky Henderson's always said this year, you know, he's felt that she's been as good as ever. But I just feel that both are a little bit long in the tooth now, and they're taking a big chunk out the market. I'm happy to side with a younger, more improving horse here. Brandy Love is a horse I like a lot. You know, you look back to the way she won at Ferry House last spring, absolutely demolished the field, including Love Envoy. She's obviously had a setback, belated return, punches down again, showed a high cruising speed. Loved the way she travelled through the mid part of that race. You could just see the minute she showed signs of getting a little bit tired and coming to the end of her run, she wasn't knocked about at all. She was allowed to come home in her own time. You know, I think she'll come on plenty for that. I thought she was a little bit of each way value here. Quite keen on the chances of Brandy Love.
Mark, I think the reaction of the week would be if Honeysuckle was to win this race, but you have to look at the blemishes the past couple of times. She's probably been with that maybe £5 lower than her form, maybe even last season and the season before. She is up against a really strong field here, though. What do you think's kind of going to be? How's this race going to end up?
I don't know. I was listening to Craig there. I think Epatant hasn't regressed, I don't think. I think she's just running against a horse who's just a monster in Constitution Hill. Honeysuckle, I do feel has regressed, although the money was crazy for her last time out when she was running against Stakeman. She was backed off the boards. They obviously thought she was going to win, because that can't just be, you know, Panthers money. The yard must have thought she was going to win as well. I can't see her winning this. This is the deepest race of the festival championship race. I think 8 out of 10 can win this. I think the one that's been really overlooked is She Wears It Well at 14-1 each way. She was talked about as a champion hurdler before she got an injury. Now, this season, she's come back. She's won a Pertemps qualifier. Maybe they thought they were going to go there first. Then she beat Queensbrook. And Queensbrook's had a perfect prep this season compared to last season. And, you know, she was only beaten 3.5, 4 lengths by Marie's Rock last season. I know, Tell Me Something Girl fell and there was carnage at second last. But I think She Wears It Well's been overlooked. The worry with her is she clouts a couple of hurdles, and she'll get too far back if she does that in this race. But I think at 14-1, I'd side with her. You can forget Epatant, because I've backed her at 14-1. She's got no chance. She just, like, I don't know. I backed her after she won at Liverpool last season, and I thought she was a huge price then. I thought they would go to the Mares because they couldn't win the champion hurdle. But I think She Wears It Well's the value, 14-1. I think I'd stick with her at the moment with the 10 winners. I'd take the 3 places and back her.
Calum, regards to the Mares Hurdle, it is a very open race. I think there's a lot of chances in here, but you have had your eye on one particularly from way early in the season.
Yeah, I liked Echoes and Rain even before the jump season really started. She was superb in Iris Cesarewicz, where you thought there'd be valid stamina doubts to go close against Waterville with some effort, because Ian O'Brien that absolutely chucked in. And again, in Galway, she ran really well 2 miles. I mean, 2 mile flat suggests that you can get 2.5 miles over hurdles for sure. She certainly wasn't done with in the Hatton's Grace either. I thought she was boxing on quite well. She confirmed that kind of visual improvement to me last time out when holding up as she liked in a pretty weak race, but she does look better. The age of 7, she's still in the compass of winning this. On a good anti-post position, I wouldn't dive back in at 6s, but 14s each way. I think she's one of, as we said, 8 in these that get really sound claims. What Nicky Henderson does here is interesting to me, because I think he's the only one that really wants Marie's Rock to be in the stairs. And I think that's because he's got his eye on the champion hurdle, Mares Hurdle, and stairs hurdle treble here. I just think he feels he can win those 3 by going that route with Constitution Hill, Epatant, and Marie's Rock. And I just think he wants to have a go at that. I would run Marie's Rock here again. She's a bit headstrong for a stairs hurdle, in my opinion. And I think the rain might confirm that. But another one I like now, and she's drifting the market, but it's Love Envoy. She's a good winner of the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. She was 4-1, 9-2. She's been at the top of the market this for ages, and all of a sudden she's doubled in price. And that's a bit strange because Connections only fear one horse here, Marie's Rock, and she might not go. So she's solid, reliable, but she's an up and comer, and up and comers tend to do well in this. 7-year-olds have a brilliant record. I respect Brandy Love as well. I think she's maybe a bit wild. Her temperament might. I think they're just behind the 8 ball a little bit too much with her. So yeah, my 2 darts in the race would be Echoes and Rain and Love Envoy.
I have the first show we did, I tipped up Brandy Love. I thought she was going to be ready for this. Again, she's had a difficult prep. She's maybe come out later than they thought originally. She was at Henrietta's for a long, long time. I think they only just got her back a couple of weeks before she went out and raced against Queensbrook. But she does have this tendency, obviously, with the right-handed. I wouldn't take into account that run the last day. I thought it was actually quite a good prep run, considering the fact she was giving Queensbrook weight. She finished third in the race. She's obviously got a lot of potential. She's better left-handed. I think she would have bolted up in the Mayor's Novice last year if she'd ran in it. They pulled her out just before the race. And I think she's probably at 6-1. She's a good enough each way bet for me to stick with her. I would love Honeysuckle to win. Again, I've loved Honeysuckle since she was first in the course, and to win 2 champion hurdles and to win a Mayor's Hurdle. I don't think she was as good enough she was as good last year as she was the year before. And I think she's a wee bit off that as well last year. So I think she would need to be at her very best to win here, and I don't think she is at her very best. So I wouldn't take her on. I'd love to see her win, but I just think Brandy Love is my pick each way. And I think I'm with Mark. I like She Wears It Well. I've always liked She Wears It Well. I think just a wee savouring her each way as well could be a good wee play. We'll go around the panel. Craig, you are very much in the Brandy Love camp with me.
I am indeed. A little bit of a savour on Echoes and Rain as well, though.
Well, it looks like everyone's going for Willie Mallon's horses, because I fancy She Wears It Well each way.
She Wears It Well. And Calum, you are very much in the Echoes and Rain camp.
Yeah, Savor and Love Envoy as well.
Savor and Love Envoy. Let's move into the Wednesday, the last race on Wednesday. It's always an interesting race, very much the Willie Mullins bingo here, I think. The champion bumper. It's for me 10-3. A Dream to Share for John Kelly at 7-2. Fun 8-1. Chapeau de Soleil 9-1. Better Days Ahead, Fact to File at 10s. Western Diego and Encanto Bruno at 12s, and 16-1 bar. Mark, we get into this every year. In the past few years, we've always had maybe one that stands out from the field. This year, it's very different. We could potentially have 9 or 10 here that could be monsters that we don't know yet. There hasn't really been a standout bumper performance this season, apart from maybe 2.
Yeah, I think on form, you can't back any other horse apart from A Dream to Share, as far as I'm concerned. That form is outstanding, because Fact to File was really fancied, was backed off the boards, and A Dream to Share went past it like it was standing still. All season, I've been told that Chapeau de Soleil is the best bumper horse in Mullins Yard. And he didn't prove it when he came out. He got beat by Better Days Ahead. But I don't know what Patrick was doing on the day. He came all the way up the inside on the turned up ground, exactly where Honeysuckle had gone in the Harton's Grace. And then when he pulled him wide, once Better Days Ahead had gone 10 lengths clear of him, he's just taken off. But he could get balloted out because he's not certain to get in. He's got 1 second place, and he may not get into the race. But I think if you go on form, A Dream to Share's win at Leopardstown was an outstanding performance, because the horses in behind were beaten out of sight apart from Fact to File. He's from a small yard, and that's the only reason he's the price he is. And he was 11 to 2-6-1 only a couple of days ago. It's only the preview circuits putting him up that's taken him into 72. I think he's by far the best form, but I don't think you've seen the best of Chapeau de Soleil yet. And that's what I've heard. I've been on Kilcrat at 14-1, went off odds on, and I've been on American Mike at 10-1, and he's gone off 5-2 in the last 2 years. So you can expect Chapeau de Soleil to come second, but on form, there's only one horse you can back, A Dream to Share, for me.
Calum, it's been a very weird bumper season, actually. You'd probably say it's, for me, visually looked very good. I Dream to Share obviously won the Grade 2 at Leopardstown. There hasn't really been many other, though, big impressive performances. I know you've been on Chapeau du Soleil for a while. This is a funny bumper this year.
It is, because nothing's really kind of properly stamped out from the traditional yards. And Gordon Elliott and Willie Mullins have split the last 6 renewals in this race, 4-2 in the favour of Mullins. So you just naturally expect, one of them, if the best bumper horse that comes out at Leopardstown and they meet, and then they'll re-meet again at Cheltenham, and that's the kind of way it's been. Not the case this year. A Dream to Share is definitely the best flatbred horse. I think he's a speed horse in the race. Whether the Cheltenham Hill will suit him, in fact, if Phil could turn it around, that might be a question mark here. You do still need National Hunt types to win this. Ruby Walsh mentioned that he looked more like a Melbourne Cup type horse rather than a kind of champion bumper type. I can just see him, maybe he might win this, and that'll kind of be that. Really, it's a National Hunt career. GP McMahon's buying him is pretty significant, isn't it? I mean, he's obviously kind of bought that to cover for Fact to File, and he's kind of the now horse. So, and GP always just wants kind of the winners in the now. So I definitely respect him. I do share my concerns with Mark that Chapeau du Soleil might get balloted out here. I mean, Willie Mullins might going to help, but he might not by taking so many of his out, perhaps. I think I have to wait till the final declarations, big style, and jockey bookings are going to be pretty significant as well. Which one's Patrick going to ride? Blah, blah, blah. It's fun going to turn up. The one I like at a price, it was Western Diego. I thought he won really well, the way he did it. Beat a Richard Burton horse in a better fashion than I think It's For Me actually did. Even though the distance wasn't that better, but I think it was a better version of the runner-up he beat. He's got excess stamina, and I think him at 12s would be where I'd be leaning to right now if Chapeau du Soleil doesn't get in.
Craig, what is your thoughts on the bumper? A Dream to Share, obviously getting a good mention off Mark. Are you with that, or do you think something from Mullins could continue his run in this race?
I think it's very difficult to have a strong opinion on the race. You've seen many horses, many winners coming into the race, visually impressive in bumpers, but none of them have been truly run. So, they've basically turned into a sprint, and, Dream to Share beat Fact to File, was bought after by JP, which I thought was significant. Another thing you usually look for in trying to find a bumper winner is horses with experience in bigger fields, that can cope with the demands of a maximum field at Cheltenham. And again, that's thin on the ground. Even the Irish bumpers this year haven't attracted the numbers that they usually do. Better Times Ahead would be the one I would be leaning towards. Again, the race was run at an absolute crawl, and he quickened up the best. The Willie Mullins horse ran on and was probably badly positioned in the race. But he was very impressive the way he went through it. Obviously, it's going to be different. It's guaranteed to be run at a strong pace, and it's going to be a completely set of conditions for all the runners, and it could easily throw up a shock result. So it's a race I couldn't be confident on, but I would be leaning towards Better Times Ahead.
Better Times Ahead for Craig. I have had Fact to File in my mind for this for a long time. I just think that, like, the idea of a horse coming from, I think he will be ridden kind of quite far back. I would imagine Mark Walsh would ride him here, because I think the young Gleason's going to keep the ride in A Dream to Share. So you'd imagine Mark Walsh would probably ride Fact to File. I'm sitting about 20-1. I'm quite happy with him at 10. At 10s, I still think he's a good bet. One that I think could be a wee player here who was very well thought of at the start of the season is King of Kingsfield. I think he's one that's very much been a victim of the slowly run races. I think a bigger field would maybe suit him. He's definitely one for the future, but he's 25-1 best price. I would definitely back him. I would rather back him now than I would have at the start of the season at 5s. So I would maybe have a wee play in him each way. But I think me and Calum spoke about it a lot. The bumpers I've seen have been a lot slower run than they usually are, and I think that's not helped a lot of horses. There's nothing in the UK standing out to me. Queen's Gamble was the only one I thought was maybe going to take the step forward, but she get beat comfortably at Market Raising. And I just think I'm going to stick with Fact to File and a wee saver on King of Kingsfield. So we'll go round the panel. Mark, you're very much a dream to share.
Yeah, on form. But I mean, like, I want Chapeau de Soleil because that's the big bet, but I can't be sure he's going to get in. So I'll have to go with a dream to share because at the moment I don't know the other horse will get in.
Calum?
Western Diego at the moment.
Western Diego. And Craig?
Better days ahead. Just looking 33 at the 5-day entry stage. So it has come down a bit. A little bit more hope for you guys.
Be very interesting. Let's move into the Thursday. The Ryanair Chase. Another race that we thought we could potentially cut up with the withdrawal of Allaho, but Shishkin showed at Ascot that he was very much back to some form of his best. And he's 8-11 here to win this. 8-11 Shishkin, 9-2 Blue Lord, Conflated 5-1. Janadil 15-2, Fury Road 8-1, Envoy Allen 11s and 14-1 bar. Calum, I tend to think if Shishkin's at the form he was at Ascot, he'll just win.
I think so, yeah. It's just how long a jump season can be and how quickly things can change. I just thought that Al would be in this position. Shishkin, one's not. One had so much to prove at the start of the season. And, Shishkin's the one that's made it and Allaho's the one that's not. So, it's just seen that both of them are clashing because that would be quite spectacle, both of them at the peak. Shishkin, I think a basic replication of the Ascot Chase win will do here. I don't really rate that much in behind. I think you could run into a low 160s to place here. And the one I'm bizarrely coming around to each way is Envoy Allen. He does have bits and pieces of 4-round down Royal. He was still in Champion Chase where he looked a kind of main threat, coming 2-3 out down the hill. He just kind of petered out a little bit. I think that heavy ground day is probably against him. He likes it kind of good soft. He does have pockets of form that would put him in the place picture, and he has back class here that a lot of these don't. So I think Shishkin's one that will win. He'll stick into multis, but just in case he does bounce, maybe Envoy Allen each way might be of slight interest.
Shishkin vote for Calum. Craig, this is very much a case of if Shishkin's at his best, he probably wins. But is there that bounce worry with him considering his inconsistency the past few races?
Yeah, definitely. I think, the 26-day gap between Ascot and Cheltenham, I wouldn't say that's absolutely ideal. He did post a very, very big effort when he won the Ascot Chase, right up there with some of the best performances in his career. And that can take its toll. We've seen that race basically finish horses. Q Card was never the same horse again. There's other horses that, have ran big figures in the Ascot Chase and never really recovered. So it's all about Shishkin and his well-being, really, rather than to be too frightened of the opposition. I think he can afford to be within £10 of his Ascot performance and still win here. The one improving horse that the market may be overlooked again, would be a without market, is Garlaw. He was impressive at the track when he won the Paddy Power. He was still in contention in the Sky Bet when he came down. He's an improving sort that likes Cheltenham. Looking at different angles for without markets, he would maybe be one that would interest me there.
Mark, you strike me very much as that you'll try and take Shishkin on at that price. Am I right?
Yeah. I just think the race was too close. And I don't like why Nico pushed him out all the way to the line either. I'm not really sure. He had that race in the bag. He didn't need to push the horse out as much as he did. Last season, Energumene won a poor Champion Chase after that race against Shishkin. And I think it took its toll on both of them. And I saw no need to do what Nico did. I'd definitely want to take him on. I'd back Janadil each way. He was second last season to Allaho. I thought his first round this season was quite amazing. He looked like he was going to drop out the back of the telly and finish fourth. And he's come and beat Hodds on Colours. I think that was just a prep run for him. I know it was the same day as Shishkin ran, but I think he's just got a better constitution. Shishkin, after he's shown frailties, and to produce such a big performance, I definitely wouldn't want to back him at odds on. Certainly not at 8-11. I'd have to take him on. I wouldn't sort of lay him, but I'd be looking to back something each way. And I think Jonadal, because it'll catch up. I don't trust Envoyallen anymore. And I don't like the form of the Bromhead yard. It's up and down all the time now. So I'd definitely just be sticking with Jonadal each way. I think at 15-2, it's a decent bet. I can't see him out of the 3.
Yeah, I'm very much with you, Mark, in terms of I think Shishkin is probably, you can find something each way to, I wouldn't want to take Shishkin on, but I just would fancy something at a price. I've thought Fury Road, this is the perfect target for him all season. He's always, to me, looked like a horse who would appreciate a wee drop and trip. The Irish Gold Cup, I think, was very interesting because two fences out, I thought he looked as if he could give Gallop and Deschamps a real scare, but he just couldn't get a wee step up, and I think just dropping him back will suit him. I think the O'Learys are very keen to have at least one in the race. I think they fancy Fury Road more for this than they do for Conflated in the Gold Cup, so I would say that's interesting. I thought Jonadal was really good the last day, but I'm kind of settled towards Fury Road. I think I'm on Fury Road at a price, and I wouldn't mind going back in again 8-1 each way, but I do, again, if Shishkin is at his best, I think he wins this comfortably. But I'm going with Fury Road each way. So, Calum, where are you? Give us your selection.
Shishkin, but Envoyallen each way, so.
Brilliant. Craig?
I think Shishkin will win. Gallo without the favourite.
Gallo. And Mark?
Well, Jonadal each way or without the favourite.
Brilliant. Let's move into the Friday. A couple of races to talk about. We'll start with the Triumph Hurdle. Again, which Willie Mullins horse is going to win this? Lossiemouth is 13-8. Blood Destiny 7-4. Gala Muscle 5-1. Comfort Zone 10-1 and 16-1 Bar. Craig, this is very much a find the right Willie Mullins horse and he'll win. Lossiemouth, again, obviously, is a question to answer after getting beaten the last day. Blood Destiny's been getting a lot of hype in the preview night circuit. Gala Muscle obviously beat Lossiemouth. Who would be the standout out of the 3 for them, for you?
I think they're hard to split, to be honest. The market is going to react, I would say, in a big way to whichever horse Paul Townend chooses to ride. I think that's going to be a big factor. And at the moment, we don't know. In terms of the form, Blood Destiny has posted the best figure. He's won in the quickest time. He did it off the front at Fairy House. He was impressive. The ground was fairly soft. Lossiemouth obviously had her excuses last time behind Gala Marceau. With a clear passage, would Lossiemouth have won? You've got to say probably yes. So I think Lossiemouth will reverse the form with Gala Marceau. Looking back to running styles, which I think is quite important for a Triumph Hurdle, new course on the Friday, 2 mile 1 for juveniles. It's quite a test. And I couldn't find any horse that had made all the running in the last 10, 12 years to win a Triumph. Arkle was the horse that raced closest to the pace. I think he was second or third for the majority of the way when he won. So that could well be against Blood Destiny, trying to make the running. And I think he's quite a free-going horse, and I think he's only got one way of running. So I'd be surprised if they tried to change tactics with him. At these prices, I wouldn't rule out Comfort Zone. I think he's probably the each-way edge. Showed a lovely attitude to win at the track when getting the better of Scriptwriter. Thought there was a little bit more in the tank when he hit the front, if required. At 10-1 each way, I think, with the place money, hopefully guaranteed with his attitude, I think he'll at least hit the frame. And I honestly think you've got a winning chance as well with him. So Comfort Zone each way would be the call.
Brilliant. Mark, I think we can safely assume that this race is going to Ireland.
Yeah, you'd think so, for sure. I was disappointed with Lossiemouth last time. I know she was hampered in that, but I just thought she would get closer to Gala Marceau. But they've got the graded form, whereas Blood Destiny's not. And he's got to give them £7 as well. To be honest with you, in this race, I'm finding it very hard. They're all too tightly priced. If you ask me which one would I back at a decent price, I'd back Lossiemouth. But she's too short, and I didn't like the way she didn't get close to Gala Marceau last time, because Gala Marceau pulled really, really hard and still managed to hold on and beat her. Whereas Lossiemouth looked like at the final flight was going to come and pick her up and didn't. So I'd struggle to have a bet in this race, to be honest with you, Scott. It's too tight. The betting's too tight for me. I liked Lossy Mouth at the start of the season. I backed her after she won her first race because I thought that was a really good performance. Her second performance was really good as well, but they were both slowly run races. And then she blotted her copybook. And at 13-8, she's too short to back. I just can't see an ending to the race, to be honest with you. If you asked me for the winner, I'd say probably Lossy Mouth, but I wouldn't back her at the price.
Calum, it is very much that. It is difficult to split the front three in the market. What have you come down on?
It is very difficult to split, and the old adage of, the out of the three, back the outsider. Gallimarceau, I think, is probably a bit big in comparison to the top two. I think she would have, the form would have been reversed, but she does an awful lot wrong in the first half of the race. A lot of the focus in Lossiemouth in the second half of that race. She was keen, she was a bit sketchy early doors, but to pull away like she did and steal the race was quite impressive. And I do like the pace angle here. I mean, Blood Destiny might set this up, and Gallimarceau could maybe nip in behind, and that might allow her to settle. The way she was ridden in France, she was held up, no problems at all, and she was absolutely fine. I think Danny Mullins is pretty keen to keep the partnership. So in Blood Destiny is a hype horse, but he's not really been great company. He might want it softer. I think he will want to make it a stamina test. I think last year, Phil Dorr maybe should have gone a little bit quicker. He would have got Vauban a little bit more trouble, and it turned into a bit of a dash up the hill, and Vauban won. But I mean, it was the right three came to the fore. I expect that to happen again. And because I find them hard to split, two of them are 7-4 and one's 5-1, and Gallimarceau will do for me at the moment.
Gallimarceau, I've been very much in the Lossiemouth camp all season. I put her up at 7-1 before she won at the Fairy House. Interesting that day that Paul Townend didn't choose her because he chose the Minear horse, whose name has completely slipped my mind. That was very interesting that day, and Danny Mullins rode her that day as well. And she did look good the past 2 days. Last time she just got into a lot of trouble. That Maniac in the same colours went out for the front and completely ruined the race for her. And again, the two things, me and Calum spoke about this a lot. Has that race taken a lot out of her? If it hasn't, I think she'll win this. I think she's better than Blood Destiny. I don't think Blood Destiny beat very much. You can argue that a lot of the horses in behind were looking for a Boodles mark. I just think Lossiemouth is... I'm going to stick with Lossiemouth, but again, I don't think there's much in the way. I think this could really cut up into a nothing race, to be honest. I think it could just be 5, maybe 6, 7 runners. I don't think there's anything in behind that's leaping out to me from an each way perspective. And I just think I'm just going to side with Lossiemouth. So we'll go around the panel. Craig?
Comfort zone each way.
Comfort zone each way. Mark?
Lossiemouth, but I'm not playing at the price.
And Calum?
At the price is Gallimarceau.
Gallimarceau. Let's move into the Mayor's Chase. Very much looking like a match bet between Allegory Devassi and Impervious. They're roughly sharing favouritism, both 6-4. Jeremy's Flames 9-2, Magic Days 10-1, 16-1 bar. Mark, Allegory Devassi, you can tell the talent's there, but she didn't look at her best the last time. Impervious has been very, very good in her few runs this season over fences. Where do you stand with this race?
It's really difficult because I've lost heavily on this race already. Back and Tell Me Something, Garl couldn't jump. Allegory Devassi's jumping would worry you for such a short price because, she nearly took the first fence home last time. And she jumped right as well, all the way through the race. Impervious, actually, I thought that was a good performance, beating Journey with me, because didn't even need... I think I'd probably just side with her. The worry with her is that her form collapsed in the second half of the season last year. And you don't know if she's going to be a spring mare or not, but I think out the two, I would go with Impervious just because her jumping's better, and she's beaten Geldings as well. Allegory Devassi, I mean, obviously all the talk out the Mallins Yard is that she's very special, so it's hard to go against a horse like that. But both of them are too short. Jeremy's Flames, no matter. Like I say, I like Cromwell's horses, but I think if someone pinned me down, I'd go with Impervious, but I wouldn't back her because of the price and because of the, how they regard Allegory Gavassi at home.
Calum, it is very much a case of, do you forgive Allegory Devassi for last time, or do you think Impervious can make another step up, or is there something else?
I do think it's between the top two. I think Jeremy's Flame went out at Huntingdon and pretty much exposed the British form here for what it's worth. And coming into this, I don't think Jeremy's Flame would have been that much in the conversation. So I think she's probably maybe about a 145 horse. I think these two mares are 150 plus, and they're up and coming. I think they're exciting. And I would side with Impervious. I think she needs a bit of cutting the ground. As Mark's point earlier on, she didn't run well in the Mares Novices hurdle, but that's because she had a setback and they were really struggling to get her there. And it was a bit of a minor miracle they did. And they've freshened up this season, and she's looked pretty good. I think that form that she touched off Journey with me on terms that weren't very preferential to her was a really good effort. I think she's just tougher and more genuine and more straightforward, and I think that's important around here. Allegory Devassi is probably the better horse and will definitely be the better horse down the line, but at track and trip and where they are now, I would say Impervious. So it's quite hard for a 6-year-old just to launch into open company and be absolutely fine here. So and she hasn't been tested around Cheltenham. At least Impervious has been there, kind of seen things. I think she's a tough sort. I think she'll relish a hill. I think she'll like the trip, and I think she's a bit more versatile at the moment. And Allegory Devassi's ability to clout one and turn right, that combination would be slightly off-putting. So well down the line, I think Allegory Devassi will be the better horse. I think Impervious will win this race.
2 votes for Impervious. Craig, are you going to make it 3?
Full house, Scott. Yeah, I mean, Richie, WP Mullins, they're having the impact on the market here, because Allegory Devassi's form isn't entitled to be favourite for me. Impervious, as we touched on, the form of a recent run was a real cracking effort. Journey with me, I thought he was the each way angle in the turners, but unfortunately he isn't going to take his chance. Manella Crooner, who's all about stamina. I don't think we've seen the best of Manella Crooner this year. He's been prepared for one race in mind all season. So that's very, very strong form against the boys. I think she should be clear favourite. I think she probably will go off clear favourite if JP gets involved. And I'd be very, very sweet on the chances of Impervious here.
So 3 votes for Impervious. I just think Allegory Devassi's a better horse. I do just get the angle. Is Impervious better for this race? Probably, but I think Allegory Devassi's the better horse. I kind of want to leave this market alone. I'm going to put up 1, and you can shout at me all you want, but Riviere de Tel 16-1. She hasn't been at her best in a long, long time. If she could get back to she didn't jump very well last year in the Arkle, but she was in with a great chance 3 out and just missed it. I think she would have given Edwardstone a serious race. I think at 16-1, I'm just going to play her each way because I just find the top 2 hard to split. I can't have Jeremy's Flame. I think he's beaten a lot of rubbish, to be honest. I don't think she's beaten anything special this season. And I kind of can't split the top 2 in the market. So I'll take Riviere de Tel each way. Calum?
It's not crazy, but I just think her stamina, I don't think is ideal for this. She struggled to get up the hill in the Arkle, the old course, and an extra half mile in the new course. I think it's not positive. But they have done back surgery to her, so she might come a bit straighter. So they do obviously regard her. So yeah, no, I'd never knock anyone for thinking outside the box and having a chance. But I'll be siding with Impervious in the day.
Impervious. Mark, you're Impervious as well.
Yeah, Impervious.
Yeah. And Craig, 3. Another vote for Impervious.
Indeed, yeah.
Indeed. Let's move into the novice hurdles. This is the opener, the Supreme Novices Hurdle. This is a race that makes you feel great if you get the winner, but you're on the back foot if you back the loser. And it's a very interesting renewal this year. We have Facile Vega at 2-1, Marine Nationale 10-3, Imperi Pass won't go 9-2, 6-1 Ile de Tomps, 7-1 Gaelic Warrior won't go either. 11-1 to Mouris, 12-1 High Definition, 14-1 Bar. Calum, Facile Vega, do you forgive or do you take on?
the market seems so ready for giving him. He was 6-1, and now he's 2-1 favourite again. It's as if it never happened. I think he's now ludicrously short for that. I know he's got the wow factor. I know he's meant to be different class. He still could well be, but watching that run over and over again, it doesn't get any better looking at it. This is a horse, it's meant to hit the line quite well. Did that in the Champion Bumper. I know he went a bit fast, but he checked out really, really tamely. He's been sidelined for a week after that. How to turn that around is going to be very, very difficult, I think. It's been 18 years since a horse won the Supreme that didn't finish in the top 2 last time round. There's a lot going against him here for the nature of this race, the nature of the way he bombed out, and the price as well. I can see why people took a chance at 6s. I'm less inclined now at 2-1.94. So no, he wouldn't be for me. I'd be looking elsewhere. And I think Barry Connell's confidence in Marine Nationale seems pretty significant. Now, he's got a bit to find in the Royal Bond form. The ground should be good to soft in the first 8. Should be reasonable enough. It was soft at Fairyhouse, but I like how horses kind of overcome things that go wrong. He wasn't in the right position there. He got out of trouble that day, and doing so in the Supreme, I think, it's a big, big asset. It's the first race of the meeting. Everyone gets overexcited, and I like how this horse just kind of relaxes and goes through the motions quite well. He's a turn of foot. He travels nicely. He jumps soundly. He can get out of trouble. He's comfortable in any position. I think his versatility and what's going on in between the ears impresses me. Things went wrong for Shishkin. Altior had to go out wide. I think their mind was as valuable as a ton of foot. Sometimes that day. I don't think he's in that league, but in an open Supreme, where I can see Facile Vega in high definition like boiling over as well again and going crazy. I just think he's the one. He's just a really solid one at the top of the market. And I think he's going to constantly drift into a decent price. I think he can go out to 5-11-2 in the day, and I think he's probably worth a pop. I would be signed with him. The more I look at it, the more sweetly I become on him a little bit.
Right, okay, I'll vote for Marine Nationale. Craig, this is very much an interesting renewal. 2 months ago, I think Facile Vega was odds on, and now he's 2-1. He isn't that much different to betting, but there's a lot more questions and answers regarding this horse after that last run.
Yeah, we needed that, didn't we, to shake the market up, to shake the race up, because it was all getting a bit boring with Facile Vega. As Calum said, they've just smashed into him in the last couple of days again. 7-4, 2-1. Punters love getting stuck into one in the Supreme, and I think they'll continue to get stuck into Facile Vega. I can see him going off even shorter. So, my advice would be to anybody, if you want to take Facile Vega on, is to wait. You will get offers on enhanced places, and back your horses each way against them as late as possible. I think he can get beat. I don't think he can bounce back from what happened to him at Leopardstown last time. High definition, yeah, maybe made him want to go a little bit faster than he should, but I thought the writing was on the wall for him in terms of 2 miles and his prior run. He got away with it because he's a classy horse. But ideally for me, I think he's at least once 2.5 mile. Q-Vega, his dam, improved as she went up in trip, was at her best at 3 miles. I just don't think he's a grade 1 horse, Facile Vega, over 2 miles. I think he probably wants, or definitely wants, a little bit further. The worry with Marine Nationale is it will be a 100-day break since he won at Fairyhouse. And looking back at the last 10 winners, Altior was the only horse that didn't run that calendar year. And he won at Kempton over the Christmas period. And he was a little bit inexperienced. And obviously I would describe his jumping at Fairyhouse strong at the end, which is a positive for Cheltenham. But lack of experience would concern me to back a horse at 4-1. It'll attempt Toms. I cannot have a second season novice, particularly a horse that ran in last year's Triumph, winning the Supreme. So, he would be out for me. Tamuris looks a big staying chaser, doesn't he? He wants a little bit of soft ground. Look, the one I've played small each way is strong leader. a horse I've liked all year. Again, his best days is going to probably lie over a fence when he goes chasing, but he clocked a really quick time when he won in the entry 2 starts back. They found a soft race to keep him ticking over, to take the keenness away from him so he wasn't too fresh. And I think he's a big price. 33 to 1 each way, strong leader would be a pick. I think the bookmakers will get off to a fly. I think they'll get a result here.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like Facile Vega's going to get backed off the board, Mark. But again, I keep going back to you. I find you very hard. I think it's hard for you to forgive a horse like that. Surely you're not backing Facile Vega.
No, I'm not backing Facile Vega. I didn't really like his run before. I'm not sure he jumps that quick for a 2-miler. I don't think his jumping's that great for a 2-miler. That was a horrible run, and I can't forgive that sort of run. Not a 2 to 1, no way. I've backed Chasing Fire at 50s, but I don't think he's quite good enough. Now, you're going to laugh at this selection, but I was quite impressed with Tamures when he won the Tolworth myself. And the form's actually working out quite well. The 2 horses went to Kelso, first and second, and the Me and Lion and Colonel Harry, and they were miles clear of the others. I think that Tolworth's not too bad. Paul Nicholls would like nothing better than to win the first race of the festival after, everything that's been said that he won't get any winners. Now, I'm not a big Paul Nicholls fan, but he's won it with these type of horses before, like Alfarov, and I'm not convinced that the Irish horses are that good. If it came up soft, that would be against Marine Nationale. Now, if you got 5 to 1 Marine Nationale and good ground, I might back him, but I think I'd go for Tamures each way. I know it's a strange selection, but I just think he's been underestimated a little bit because everyone wants to back the flashy Irish horses.
The thing with Facile Vega is that last year he was exceptional with the bumper and exceptional after that at Punchestown. But the thing that caught my eye with that is that he was ridden towards the rear of midfield. They have completely changed tactics on him. They've wanted him to make all. See if it came out tomorrow that Patrick Mullins was riding Facile Vega, I'd be happy. I'd actually think that would suit him better, because I think Mullins was spot on. I think they've tried to make this horse a machine, and I don't think anybody can go at that pace and keep that going. Calum's mentioned the ground for a while. I'm starting to come round to that, but I also think a big thing with Facile Vega is that they've tried to make him go from the front, and I don't think he's particularly good at it. Because it is, again, I think he's maybe stamina inclined as well. He's obviously comes from a dam who thrived on stamina. I do think if Facile Vega's back to his best, I think he probably wins, but I can't take him at 2 to 1. I think that's a ridiculous price coming off a bad run like that. I'm going to take 2 at a price. If Hunter's Yarn goes here, I think he's a good chance at 16 to 1, but I'm hoping it goes County, because I've got him on that as well. And I like this Dr. Bravo of Gordon Elliott's. I think he would have won the Red Mills if he didn't belt the second last. And he would have beat likes of Sharjah and Fildor. I think 20 to 1's a big price on him. But Calum, before we get into selections, I'm keen to get your thoughts. And you've been very vocal about Facile Vega on the ground. Do you agree that maybe if they hold him back, it's going to be softer on the first day than it will be the rest of the week, just going from old time's sake? But do you give Facile Vega more of a chance because if they hold him back?
I don't think that's the plan with him. I think they're going to jump out and be fairly handy again with him. I do the soft ground's key. I do think he shapes like he needs further, but it's just the nature of how he bombed out last time. You just can't really go back in at 2 to 1 at all on the back of that. So I'm just happy to kind of swerve him. But I do hope that he settles and shows a bit of recovery, because you don't want kind of potential stars going that backwards. I hope he kind of runs at least a decent, credible race.
Does anybody have anything at a price apart from what was suggested? Because I think there's a lot of each way players, likes of High Definition, Diverge. Anybody get anything else to add in this race?
Rare Edition, I think, is a horse that's maybe been written off a little bit because of his run in the Sydney Banks. But Charlie Longsdon came out and he was on the verge of pulling them out in that race because he thought the ground was too quick for him. They let him take his chance. The time he clocked at Kempton over Christmas prior to that was, suggested he wasn't far off supreme level with a little bit more progression to come. I think he's a player, and with the enhanced places that are likely to to come on offer. It's a race that I want to oppose the front of the market and back some of the bigger priced rags and hopefully get a return.
Brilliant. So I'm going to go for Dr. Bravo each way. We'll just go around the panel. Calum?
Marine National at the moment.
Marine National. Craig?
Strong leader each way.
Strong leader each way. And Mark?
Well, Tamuras, but I think Chasing Fire is a decent outsider as well.
Tamuras and Chasing Fire. Let's move in to the Ballymore on the Wednesday. Now, we're recording this just as we're getting the declaration, so it might be a wee bit out here, but Perry Pass leads the market at 2-1, Hermes Alen 11-4, Gaelic Warrior 4-1, Facile Vega is on in here at 9-1, he won't go, Goodland 5s, Champ Kylie 7s, and 10-1 Bar. Craig, I think this is one of the races of the week.
Yeah, it is. And Perry Passy, very impressive visually, but he's been involved in slowly run races. He's shown a fine turn of foot to go and win those races. If it was me, and Bully Mullins is in a different league in terms of picking the right races for his horses, I'd like to see Facile Vega in here, and I'd like to see Impera Passy in the Supreme. But that isn't going to happen now unless the ground changes. But he's an exciting horse. He's a little bit of a hype horse because he hasn't gone and posted any big figures. He hasn't gone and done anything that for me sets too high a standard that makes him unbeatable. He's exciting, but I think he's a little bit short in the market. The Stats boys will be out in force with Hermes Alen, Shallow Hurdle winners going back 20 years, haven't won at the festival. Paul Nichols hasn't won this race, and he's had the likes of Denman coming in here. But Hermes Alen he's a very, very good horse, and that shallow form is working out well. So I wouldn't be too quick to write off. And there's at least one big start that gets bust every year. Shishkin a couple of years ago, coming from the Sydney Banks. I think there's a little bit more strength and depth to the race than the market suggests. The one I'd be interested in is Champ Keeley. I think he's tough. I think he's just the type you need for this. I think you need a horse with a little bit of experience. I like what he did off the front at Naas last time. The low sun, obviously, we've seen quite a few hurdles omitted that day, but I don't think that particularly helped him because he's a fine jumper. He travels well. He's got gears. He'd be the one that makes a little bit of each way appeal here to me, Champ Keeley.
Champ Keeley for Craig. Mark, this is an interesting race. You've got Willie Mullins has got 3 in the top 5 in the betting. What do you think's the best? What's kind of reaching out to you in the market at the moment?
Well, you find it strange in the market at the moment. And Perry Pass was 72, 4-1 before the preview circuit started. And now he's 2-1. Now, he's not done anything, but he's all of a sudden halved in price just about for staying in his box, but because everyone's talking him up. I had a really good look at his form. Actually, his times weren't that bad in comparison to the other races on the cards in each race that he's run. He's beaten absolutely nothing. I mean, Harmonia Maker, that's not going to be winning you. A Ballymore. The ground's going to be really important here because I loved the way Goodland jumped at Leopardstown, but I think he'll want, better ground. The one I keep looking at all the time and whose form has been a bit overlooked, and it's surprising considering it's a JP horse is in the pocket, because the form of that win when he beat 3-card Bragg is strong because Absolute Notions was further back in that race than he was in Nathaniel Lacey. I think he's been overlooked a bit. I know I've said that the Bromhead's not in the best of form, but I like in the pocket each way in this race. And Perry Pass, you could have maybe gone for Hermes Alen. I don't know, he's too short. I mean, I've put up Tamuras in the previous race because he's 12-1. If Hermes Alen was about, 9-2, 5-1, I'd perhaps be looking there, but he's too short. So for me, in the pocket each way, about 12-1 would be my selection.
Calum, there's a lot in here that I want to get your thoughts on. And Perry Pass, obviously, is a Moscow Flyer winner. You've been very vocal about that. Gaelic Warrior, obviously, is a right-handed thing. Goodland is one that interests me because, obviously, he's won that 2 mile 6 race, but I don't think that 2 mile 6 race is particularly good for a Ballymore.
No, and I did really like him that day at Leopardstown, just because I think he had the speed, and rest of them were kind of 3 milers, and that's how it panned out. The speed horse won that in decent ground. I think this is a lot tougher. Imperi Passy, I think, should be running the Supreme 100%. I think it's a ridiculous decision. I think this jumping is his best asset. He's got speed. I think he'd hose up in the Supreme. I'm less confident here. There's more hurdles to jump. His jumping's maybe his asset, and I just think Willie Mullins has got it in his mind that he has got to split up Fasilvia and Imperi Passy in one way or another from the outset. And I think he might get them the wrong way around. You know, who is anyone to doubt Willie Mullins? You know, he gets it right more often than not. It's the other Munir and Suede horse that I've really liked all season, and nobody seems to be talking about in the Mullins camp at all, and it's Dart Raven. I really like this horse. You know, you like Dr. Bravo for the Supreme. Dart Raven always beat him on the bridle on debut by 3 lengths. Dart Raven's went to open company and did himself justice for sure. And you know, he's got an outside chance in Supreme. And Dart Raven, he was good enough to be pitched in, but he was just in the heels of In the Pocket, going in. He was outpaced. He shaped as if he needed it to go up and trip. I think the ball would really suit him. Perplexed, been 25 33s all season, and I've just been chipping away at him each way for this, and the Supreme, just in case to go there. I just think the lack of mention of him from the Mullins camp is just going to see him completely overlooked when his form, like when the Pocket, who also like each way, is pretty strong. I think the 2 mile form here looks good in relation to what Gaelic Warriors achieved, Imperi Passys achieved, and Hermes Allen. So I'd be looking at that Grade 1 form in behind LAT Tom, and I quite like how In the Pocket and Dart Raven shaped, and I'd be taking them each way in this.
2 each way plays. I am coming round to the fact that Imperi Pass could just be lined up for this. Similar to Sir Gerhard last year, where you could tell he was just the best horse in the race, and if he stayed, he would win. This horse has won a 2 mile 4 maiden hurdle, then goes to the Moscow Flyer, looks brilliant in that. And I think he's the best here. I just really think it. I think 2-1 is a little bit short. I'm on at 9-2. I put him up at 9-2. I wanted to put him up at 9-2 actually, and completely slipped my mind because I didn't think I thought he would stay that price. I didn't expect to gamble, but there's a lot of people in the circuit saying this horse could be really good. I can't have Gaelic Warrior. I think that I know they've given him an operation. If you listen to Joe Chambers' podcast yesterday with Nick Luck, they don't fancy him in the slightest for this race. So that's very telling. Good land, I would like. I just don't like the impact, that 2 mile 6 race. If that was a 2 mile 4 race like it was in previous years, I would think Good Land win this. I just think Imperi Pass is probably coming round to be one of my best bets of the week, and I'm not going to give up on American Mike. I've tipped him up too many times for my own good, but I just think at 33-1, if he can show anything like last year, he could be an interesting each way player. I wouldn't rule out something like that happening with American Mike, because he's beat a horse I'm going to tip up later on in the Bartlett. It was very, very weird the time that Don Rising beat him, and he was really, really awful over 2 miles. And I just think that they've been minding him a wee bit recently. I think they'll go here because they obviously can't go to a handicap now. And I just think at 33-1, he's certainly worth a play each way. So I'm going to go for Imperi Pass to win and American Mike each way. Craig?
Champ Kylie each way for me.
Champ Kylie each way. Mark?
In the Pocket each way.
In the Pocket each way. And Calum?
Dart Raven and In the Pocket each way.
Dart Raven and In the Pocket each way. Let's move on to the Mares Novice Hurdle on the Thursday. Lucia for Nicky Henderson is 13-8. Again, has looked very good in both her starts and over hurdles this season. Astro Diamond 10-3. Lot of Joy 7-1. Magical Zoe, You Wear It Well, and Alka to Bear 10-1. Princess Zoe 12-1, 14-1 bar. Mark, Lucia, have you been impressed, and is she going to just romp home here?
I've been impressed, but 6-4 in a big field, I'm not sure I can take that. It's too short because she's been winning very small field races in the UK against rivals that are nowhere near the class she's going to take on in this race, and she's 6-4. I think out of the two, I would take Astro Diamond, but for me, I'm going to go with Lot of Joy. each way, because she's used to these big field handicaps on the flat, and she's run really well in them, and she's not going to feel out of place in one of these because it's going to be like helter skelter. And a lot of these horses are running in small field races. Like Lucia's been, running in 4 or 5 runner races. I know she's looked really special, and you've got to take heed when Henderson says how good she is, and Nico's wanting to go to the Supreme and things like that. But for me, a lot of Joy's pretty solid. I know her form's not that great. I mean, Princess Zoe's been very overlooked for a Grade 1 flat horse. It's pretty strange that she's so big. And the trainer was on the Paddy Power podcast saying that he didn't have her 100% for her first hurdle start. So she could be one that could contract. But I'd take a lot of Joy each way in this race.
Brilliant. Calum, Lucia's obviously a short price. We've been here before with Epiton, who probably was the best horse coming out of that race, went on to win a champion hurdle. I don't think there's any doubt that Lucia is the most talented here, but short price favourites in the past couple of years we've been burned.
Yeah, they're 0 for 4, and Henderson's 0 for 13 in this race. I think 64 is an awful price. Even if you think she can hack up, what can go wrong? And, Lucia's backstory is quite, she died in the gallops, and she has a setback this season as well. She's not the most robust, and if she makes a mistake and her chance is gone, they're not going to rush her to get back into this race. They will be mindful of the future with her. And I think that's, worth considering in a race that can go wrong, pretty quickly and pretty easily for a lot of these inexperienced caught out Epitonic, caught out Dino Blue. I think Lucia's probably better. Better kind of prep for this slightly, but she hasn't beaten much, and I think the price is, and you've got so many horses here that are running for you from the Irish ranks as well. The one I really like, and I'm on the fairy tale story here, is Magical Zoe. I think Henry de Bromhead's laid this horse out from November. As soon as he realised that this race was going to be named after his late son Jack, he's going to throw so many darts at it. Foxy Girl's another to consider. I think they're going to be absolutely fully tuned. Magical Zoe came through really late, only won by a length at Gowran Park, but she won well on top at the line. Her bumper forms worked out excellently. Her run style is exactly the same as Tell Me Something Girl. You need to stay in this race, coming from the back, slicing through them. And I think between 2nd and 7th, there's been subsequent handicap Grade 3 listed winners since. Just slowly tip away 10-1. She's had positive mentions here and there. And yeah, I think there might be a wee brilliant story here on Thursday with Magical Zoe.
Yeah, I think we would all like to see Henry de Bromhead win this. Craig, what is your thoughts on the mare's Novice? Are you with Lucia? Are you taking her on?
I've got to take her on at price. Everything comes down to price, and she's too short at 6-4. And Calum touched on a couple of negative stats in terms of Nicky Henderson. I'm going to throw another one in. That is negative. The British bred horses have got a poor record here, and this year falls into that category. Interesting that Nico de Boinville wanted Nicky Henderson to run her in the Supreme. He thought she was good enough to run in the Supreme. But like I say, I think the race is more competitive than her price suggests at 6-4. The horse I wanted to be with got pulled out earlier in the week, Night and Day, which was unfortunate. She was thrown in first time for Willie Mullins in a Grade 1 at Fairyhouse. She bombed out completely, but was very impressive in a quick time at Clonmel, but had a setback, unfortunately. So off the subs bench here for me would be Ashrow Diamond. A mare I've liked a lot since she won at Naas. Again, impressing on the clock that day. Travelled really, really well in the Royal Bond. Looked like she was going to hack up, but she was just too keen in the early part of that race. Had a nice confidence booster at Fairyhouse on a most recent start. I think the stronger pace will help her settle, because the one downfall to her is that she can't over-race. She can be a little bit keen in the early part, but with a stronger pace, I think that can help her settle, and hopefully she'll get home and might prove good enough.
Yeah, some interesting calls. I think Lucia could be a bit special, but again, 13-8 is just a little bit short. A horse I really like for Gordon Elliott, and I've liked all seasons, Halka du Tabert, who was beaten by Ashrow Diamond, but I think she could get a lot closer going left-handed. she led that race. It wasn't a great pace. I think she'll like a quicker pace, which I think will undoubtedly get here. And it always I think she coming from the back. I always think the horse, like Tell Me Something Girl was a good example of this. A horse coming from the back of the field always seems to suit in this type of race with a big field. I just think Arkle to the Berry each way about 14s is quite an interesting play. So we'll go around the panel. Calum.
Magical Zoe.
Magical Zoe. Craig.
Ashrow Diamond.
Ashrow Diamond. Mark.
Lots of joy.
Lots of joy. And I'm going to go for Halka to Tabel. Let's move into the Albert Bartlett, which is on the Friday. The potato race, as it's famously known. And it's a very open race here. Corbett's Cross, 7-2 favourite. Don't know if he's going to go or not. Embassy Gardens, 11-2. 3-Card Bragg, 7-1. Hidden Valley Lake, Sander Clegane, 8s. Monty Star, 9s. Favreau de Champdou at 10s. Shanbally Kid, 12, 14-1 bar. Calum, this is a very interesting Albert Bartlett, very, very open. Corbett's Cross is favourite. There's chat that he might not go. Where do you stand with this race? I know there's been a lot of kind of horses kind of doing the kind of similar things. Very open this year.
I think it's a fantastic renewal. This is one of the races I'm really looking forward to. It's anti-post wise, it's shaped up to be a really strong renewal all season, and it hasn't disappointed. If you follow exchanges, Corbett's Cross looks an unlikely runner here. He's about 10-11-1. You know, I mean, that's simply not kosher if he's 72 in the sports book. I don't think so. I think he's likely to miss this. Probably wait for something else. The two I like is 3-Card Bragg and Hidden Valley Lake, and ground's going to be very key here. Better ground's going to suit Hidden Valley Lake, and soft ground's going to really suit 3-Card Bragg. I wouldn't be bothered if it's good to soft with 3-Card Bragg either, because as Mark mentioned, that Absolute Notions form in the pocket, I think that's really, really solid form. There was a lot of hurdles missed out that day. It was completely unsuitable for 3-Card Bragg, but it's just his attitude all season. It's just tailor-made for a Bartlett. He just boxes on, goes on and on. Such a trier. I really find it difficult to see him outside the frame. And I think he's just destined to improve for 3 miles. I think Gordon Elliott's campaigned quite a lot of his horses really well. I mean, novice chasers looking at Jerry Calum and Mighty Potter, but over the trip, I think they're primed to kind of improve for it rather than kind of just be more of the same. I think there's bundles that come from 3-Card Bragg. He'd be really short favourite for a Martin Pipe, if he decided to go that way. Obviously didn't. I'm on a Melidor's 14-1 for any race, and I don't mind that at all for the Bartlett. Hidden Valley Lake, I thought was a bit luckless against Monty Star, had to make all, was a bit cumbersome, didn't look comfortable with the track, ground looked tacky, had to give £9. I think he'll come on more for that run than Monty Star is. I think Monty Star had to go out and prove his position in the market, while Hidden Valley Lake didn't, and I think it was seen a bit more of a prep. So I think the two De Bromheim horses are probably in kind of different trajectories in terms of preparation going into this, and I prefer Hidden Valley Lake on better terms here, not getting the £9. So those two in the field will do for me, but there is plenty of options in this race, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Craig, as a very open renewal, is there anything kind of leaping out to you?
The two against the field here for me would be Hidden Valley Lad. Wasn't really suited to the pace of the race last time behind Monty Star. That placed more of an emphasis on speed, and he's a horse that looks like he'll stay very well. I think he'll improve for the demands of an Albert Bartlett, and one at a bigger price. Let's be clear about it. I like his form. Limerick, when he was second 2 starts back, he went off far too hard on the front end, did all the donkey work, got run out of it in the closing stages. And his win last time at Punchestown, puts him right in the mix here. So he'd be the first pick here for me. Let's be clear about it. And Hidden Valley Lad would be worth a saver.
Brilliant, Mark. Yeah, what's your thoughts on the Albert Bartlett?
I like Craig's horse. Let's be clear about it. Just because I follow Cromwell's form quite a bit, and he's 5 from 24 at the festival. So, he's got a great record, over 20% strike rate at the festival is pretty good. But the horse I don't know if anyone watches the videos or not, but the horse that I've been going on about this season is Shambali Kid of Willie Mallins. He's 20-1 at the moment. He won a bump, but he's bought by Gigginstown. He's the first Gigginstown horse to go back to Mallins. He came out over 2 miles, it was way too short, and he was never winning, and it looked like a really poor run. He came up 2 miles 4. He beat Monty Star quite easily, I thought, and I just think that he's made for 3 miles, and I think at 20-1 he's a big price. Now, I don't know if he's going here. I don't know what the plan is with the horse, but he's one that I've picked out. I've backed him at silly prices on the exchanges. He's down now to, sensible prices. You could only back him non-runner, no bet, because I don't know he's definitely going to run. But he's my pick in this. I'm going for an outsider because I don't like the form of it. I would back Corbett's Cross, but he doesn't look like he's running, because that win over 2 miles was sensational, really, because Founder 50 is a good horse, and to beat him over 2 miles was a really good performance, but it doesn't look like he's running. So I'll go with Shambally Kid. I really like him at 20-1, and if he goes, I think he'll be a lot shorter.
Yeah, you would have noticed a big smile when you both mentioned Let's Be Clear about it. I really think this horse has a big chance here. He's had a lot of experience. He's been hard to keep right, but if anybody can get a 3 mile hurdler right, it's Gavin Cromwell. Obviously, he's done it in the past with Florian Porter and Vanillier. And I think 20-1's big. He's been beaten by some really good horses. Hidden Valley Lake beat him. American Might beat him as well. There's another couple I can't remember, but again, he's just Sander Clegane, I think, beat him as well. But I just think he's really, really set and kind of made for this. I think the step up and trick will do him no harm. I think he's been lightly raced this year compared to he's had 4 runs kind of early in the season. I don't think he's been seen since early January, which I think's a real interesting here. And I'm kind of coming down to Shambally Kid now. He is getting very popular in the market. He's now down to 12-1 in the betting I've got here, which makes me think that I picked him at 20-1 as well. 12-1's maybe a bit short, but again, 20-1, you're just, again, non-runner, no bet, because there isn't much in the way of the chat in the Mullins camp is if they're going here, but I can see him having a good chance. And I really like to run behind beating Monty Star, who's obviously come out in frank to form since. I think I would play those two at a price. Again, Seabank Bistro, I think could just be a natural stare. Now, he's not been anywhere close to what I thought he would be this season. But I think at 22-1, he might just be a race he might like. He might like it a bit softer, but I just think I would take on a few in the market. I can't have Embassy Gardens. I think he's probably he was favourite for a while. I thought he was the worst favourite of the week for a while, which I'm quite glad Corbett's Cross has went in front of him. But if Corbett's Cross doesn't run and Embassy Gardens go off favourite, then I'll be tapping away at being against Embassy Gardens. I think it's a shocking price of what he's done. And I think there's so many you could take on against him. But it's another very open race. And we'll go round the panel before we move on to novice chases. Calum?
3-card Bragg and Hidden Valley Lake.
Craig?
Let's Be Clear about it each way.
Brilliant. Mark?
Shambally Kid each way, and Let's Be Clear about it each way, because another thing to bring up, Scott, just quickly, is that if you look at that up in the ante, Johnny Dineen seems to have a line into Cromwell's yard, and he's been going on about Let's Be Clear about it all season.
Yeah. Very, very telling. I think Let's Be Clear about it in Shambally Kid with a wee play in Seabank Bistro. Let's move into novice chases. Let's start with the Arkle, which is very much a match bet, in my opinion, between El Fabiolo and John Bon. They're roughly between 6-4 and 11-8. You've got Dysart Dynamo at 9-2, San Juan at 8-1, Banbridge 9's 14-1 bar. Craig, let's start with you. Do you think it's just a match bet between the top two, or are you looking elsewhere?
No, I think it is a match. Dysart Dynamo deserves a little bit of respect, but we all know what can happen with him. We've seen it last year. He can boil over. He's a handful to try and keep in check. He's a bit of a tearaway on the front end. Cheltenham may help him, may settle him a little bit, but I'd be worried about the preliminaries for him. Jumbo and El Fabiola, there's nothing between them in the market. They're hard to split. It's a toss of a coin, really. You look back to Aintree when they met last year in a graded novice hurdle for some clues. El Fabiola made a mistake, or got hampered rather, 2 out. Had every chance, though, to get by John Bon. John Bon stuck his neck out. He's a tough little horse, John Bon. I think Warwick would have done him the world of good. A lot of knockers from Warwick, because when the Skelton horse went took 3 or 4 lengths out of him, but he didn't panic. Aidan Coleman, and you know, he picked them up fairly easily in the end. A lot has been made the fact that he jumped slightly to his right. That wouldn't concern me. Look, they're hard to split. They're very, very hard to split. The angle for a bet might be betting without both, which there will be markets nearer the day, because Dysart Dynamo for me could burn himself out of third place. So there could be value to be had in that market. But for a pick, it would be John Bond. It would be a pick because it wouldn't be a bet at the prices.
So John Bond for Craig. Mark, I think this is very interesting, that the fact that when you've got the best of the Irish and the best of the British, it's usually Cheltenham that it's the first time they compete against each other. But these two have obviously met at Aintree, where John Bond just edged out El Fabiolo. Do you think that race will be? Do you think that race is a telling point here, or do we think both have improved since then?
I think both have improved. I think John Bond's improved for a fence, but El Fabiolo was so inexperienced. But people will say that John Bond had been to Cheltenham before, so you can even that up as well. You look at last time out, I wasn't impressed with John Bond. I know there's two different camps in that. I didn't like his performance last time. It would put me right off him. In fact, I'll tell you the truth. I backed John Bond at 10-1 after Aintree. I laid the whole lot off after Warwick. Just took the slight profit I could take. For me, there's nothing between them. El Fabiola's got a mistake in him. That error he made at Leopardstown, I don't know how he's won so easily making an error like that. And he did it in first time out as well. So I'm going to play hollow games without the top two myself, but I wouldn't like to pick it. Obviously, Henderson will have John Bond absolutely 100% for this race. He probably wasn't for Warwick, but I find it hard to forgive horses, like I said. El Fabiolo could make a mistake. I can't see Dysart Dynamo holding on over both of them, so I would just back hollow games without the two. Very
interesting. Calum, I've always got the impression with you that you've looked beyond John Bond. You've always looked to try and beat him. Where are we at now?
Yes, I can't now though, because I'm now in the John Bond camp, I'm afraid. Just because this race has fallen apart a little bit, I would still like Banbridge to run here. You might not with the ground, but I mean, I do think El Fabiolo put in a serious performance. If he replicates that, he's got every chance. But it was a big, big effort, and he wasn't straightforward. He did clout one, and just him freewheeling to that second last at Cheltenham would worry me. I think it's a bit of a bull in a china shop at the moment. And I just think we Dysart Dynamo up front. I think John Bond has been half fit all season, dossing about against, pretty average horses here that are beating each other. And I just trust Nicky Henderson to get him right. He's the same age, brother to Duvan. He's the same age to that Simmonsig was when he won it. Altior won it at 7. Shishkin won it at 7. He's not at the level of that horse yet, but he just could be with a truer pace. He's been like 2-3 runner fields all season where he's crying out for a lead. That's what caught him out of Warwick for me. I mean, Ian Coleman was so desperate to sit behind for so long that when he did get a lead, he just kind of let Calico kick a little bit. And I know, and he won it next time out as well at Doncaster, which his resolution you'd have thought was a bit doubtful. So it's hard to make up ground at Warwick as well, like he did. He was quite far back, and it's a sharp track and it's a stiff test, but he cruised him outside and won as he liked. I think he will come on a turn from that, and I think his softer, lighter prep just plays in his favour a little bit more than that Irish Arkle, which was a gruelling test. The pace up front was searing. Even might leave a mark at Dysart Dynamo, who would be interesting from the front, but I just don't think he's tractable enough to take advantage from it and harness it at any point and kick away. And I just think John Bond will probably devour the hill and beat him, and maybe El Fabiolo has made a mistake that may have done for him. So yeah, I'm leaning with John Bond with the Henderson factor as well. I'm pretty sure that he'll get him right in the day, and yeah, I think he will win.
And I find them very hard to split at the top of the bet, and I think El Fabiolo has probably got the better engine, but again, I just think he's got a mistake in him. John Bond, yes, I think he's very talented. I'm finding it hard. I've looked at his price all season and thought there must be something at a price you can take him on with, but now I think, I don't know. I'm struggling with this race a wee bit. Dysart Dynamo, again, he could just burn himself out very quickly. The one I've been edging towards for a wee while now has been San Juan to pick up the pieces if it turns into a grueling kind of duel between the top three. And I think 8-1, he's maybe a bit short to play at a price, but I can see something like that happening, like one or maybe even two of these completely bombing out and something coming from behind to maybe kind of pick up the pieces a wee bit. Maybe not win, but maybe finish second. And I kind of think I would just play San Juan each way now, but I think it's going to be a very, very interesting race. And I think it just comes down to the top two, which one is going to be better on the day. And we'll move into the picks quickly. Craig?
John Bond for me.
John Bond. Mark?
I don't really have a pick, to be honest with you, Craig. Sorry, Scott. I would take Hollow Games without the two.
Hollow Games. And Calum?
John Bond.
John Bond. I'm going to go San Juan each way. Let's move into the National Hunt Chase, which is also on the Tuesday, and we've got a strong Willie Mullins favourite here. Craig, Gaia Duminil 6-5, Marlin Mission 9-2, Chemical Energy Ramirez 11-2, Churchstone Warrior 6-1, Manila Crooner Mr. Coffee 9-1. I get the feeling that you're very much against the favourite, and you've got your eye on one in here.
Yeah, he's a horse that I like, but I think he's a little bit soft in the finish. First went into the notebook many years ago when he won a maiden hurdle at Leopardstown. I backed him for the Ballymore at 20-1 that year, and he finished third. Since he's went over fences, I don't think he's found enough off the bridle. He ran in the Irish National last year. That was a furlong shorter than the Cheltenham trip. I thought he's out on his feet at the end. I didn't think he wanted to go any further. He's got an extra furlong at Cheltenham up the hill. I think he'll be vulnerable in the closing stages of this race. I think something that is a stronger steer over this distance will collar him late. And the one horse that I don't think has shown his hand this season at any stage is Manila Crooner. Now, he was being talked about last year as a lively horse for the Arbor Bartlett, but he didn't get there. He didn't take his chance in the end. But, he's been involved in races that have placed an emphasis on speed, which didn't suit. He's been involved in slowly run races, which didn't suit. He wants a massive emphasis on stamina. And I think we'll see a completely different horse. I'm told Gordon Elliott's jockey for the race will ride Manila Crooner over his other entry. So he could shorten up a little bit. And I think we'll see the real Manila Crooner turn up at Cheltenham this year. So he'd be the each-way pick in the National Hunt Chase.
Brilliant. Mark, National Hunt Chase, very short price favourite in Gaia Duminil, who I've liked all season for this. Do you like him?
Yeah, I do. Although I think he shouldn't be in a race like this. He should be in the Brown Advisory for me, and Ramillies should be in this for them, because I think he's just an out-and-out stayer. And I thought he won well last time out in the 10-up. I can't quite understand why he's going to go in here as second string, so we don't even know who's going to ride him, or if he's going to go back to 3 miles just to... I mean, it's all about this, we want the horse to win. I think Gallard Duminil is a Grade 1 horse who should be in the Brown Advisory. I think he'll probably just about win Gallard Duminil. But if Ramillies runs against him, I'll take Ramillies. It's just I think they're going to switch Ramillies back to have 2 shots at 2 different races rather than run them both. But yeah, I think Gallard Duminil's probably, you look at the form, it's very, very strong. It's a lot stronger than anything else in this race. He's like a Grade 1 horse running against, top handicappers, really. To be honest, I don't think they're graded. Many of them are graded horses in behind.
Calum, I've been very much in the Gaia Duminil camp, as you know. Where are you with this? Are you taking him on, or are you going with him?
He's probably at the moment, but as a key point, he's might just test him a little bit. He did off and he's probably carrying a big enough. He's beat Churchstone Warrior convincingly since. Mighty Potter in behind that was an okay run, but he's not progressing. He's a low 150s horse. His strike rate 1 for 8 just doesn't smack, even money favourite. carefully selected, get turned over and odds on. I think he's more of a carefully selected than a Statler in this race for Mullins. So I think I've been inclined to take him on. Elliott and Mullins have shared 7 of the last 10 renewals of this, and I quite like Manila Crooner as well. I was wondering what they were doing with him, because trying to get me qualify seemed a bit of a stretch, but maybe they just kind of forgot about the rules there. But I mean, he's crying out for a marathon test. I thought he'd be a better chaser than a hurdler as well. And I did think from a long way out he'd be there for, but they was kind of fishing for a mark at Warwick. I think they're maybe trying to get him the Kim Muir, and they've been bought by the same owners now that had Brayside, so they were kind of caught out a little bit by that as well, by running here instead of maybe the Kim Muir last year. So yeah, I'm a bit betwixt and between him, but he definitely interests me as Chemical Energy and better ground as well. I think he'd probably throw out the last run. He doesn't like those type of conditions around Cheltenham. Yeah, the form seems ornery enough, but when Gordon Elliott deliberately puts one away for this, I think they merit consideration. I read in the Racing Post yesterday that Malheur Mission has lost Barry O'Neill, and he'll be ridden and he'll ride Manila Crooner. I think that's curtains for backing anything outside Elliott and Mullins here, so I'd be sticking there, and I'd slightly lean towards a Manila Crooner at the moment.
Interesting votes for Manila Crooner. I just think Gaillard de Menil's going to win this. I think he's the best horse in the race. How many horses have ran and finished second in a third in a Ballymore, won a Grade 1 over hurdles, went to an Irish National, finished third in a Brown Advisory, won a Grade 1 over 3 miles, finished second in 2 Grade 1s in the same year, over 2.5. I just think this horse is far better than everything else in this race, and I think he's going to smash up, to be honest. I don't see anything. Chemical Energy, I think, is hard to forgive. Malheur Mission, again, I would agree with Calum that I think jockey booking's interesting. My other pick in the race is Mr. Coffee to finish second, because that's what he does. Mr. Coffee to finish second and Gaillard de Menil to win.
Jimmy White of horse racing.
And I just don't see anything other than that, to be honest. Manila Crooner, I think he's always hard to get right for me. And again, Calum will tell you, I fancied him much strongly last year going into the Bartlett, and he just didn't else to get there. I think he's just worried me over fences. And again, I thought if he was good enough, he should be beating a horse like Darren's Hope, who I don't think's that good, to be honest. And was it Craddockstown he was second in? And I just think Gaillard de Menil was a good thing here, and I think he'll win strongly. So we'll go around the panel. Calum.
Manila Crooner each way.
Manila Crooner. Craig.
Manila Crooner each way.
Manila Crooner. And Mark.
Gaillard de Menil.
Gaillard de Menil. We'll move on to the Brown Advisory Novices Chase over 3 miles on the Wednesday. Jerry Calum 13-8, the Real Whacker 4-1, Sir Gerhard 4s, Time Hill 9-2, and 10-1 Bar. Mark, it is very much a case of if it goes well for Jerry Calum, he looks to be the best horse in the race for me. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, my first Calancha pick. I think he's the best bet of the week. To be honest, he'll be mine now, because I just don't understand how he's such a big price, if I'm honest. I think he should be odds on. I mean, is Sir Gerhard going to run here, going from 2 miles to 3 miles after one chase where he's just about taking the whole fence away? The Real Whacker, is he really going to be good enough? I have to be with Jerry Calum. I thought that performance was brilliant. I think going up to 3 miles, he's probably going to get softish ground. I think he's at the prices this week, at the shorter prices, he's the best bet of the week for me at the prices. I mean, there's no certainties in racing, but on softish ground at that price, I think he's a good bet.
Calum, I think with Jerry Calum, it is about ground. He seems to be ground dependent. I thought he's been very, very good this year at the likes of Limerick and Sandown over shorter, and he just looks like he needs further. What do you think? You've been very strong on him for a while. I remember you tipping about 50-1 last year for the Bartlett. So he's a horse that's been on your radar for a while. Do you think he's a good thing here?
Yeah, providing there's the word soft in the description. Don't think he's at bottomless. Again, Gordon Elliott campaigning his horses over shorter than ideal. I think splitting him and Mighty Potter, sending one to Sandown and keeping one for the Grade 1, just showed how highly regarded he holds both of these. Unbeaten profile, 7 from 7. Thurlesy handled it. He got a bit jarred up, but he still handled it and won that day. I just think they're just being very mindful of him. I couldn't pull the trigger at fancy prices because the non-run no bet wasn't there, and connections seemed to be really minding him, and they weren't really totally convinced it would go. So I left it as late as possible to play him, and he was 5s immediately after Sandown, and I thought he did well to win that from inadequate, really kind of trip again. But he that was him proving it at Grade 1 level. On ground that was a bit quicker than what he encountered in Boxing Day. And most time, which again, the trip looked too short, but he just bursts through them. He's just so likeable. The way he jumps, economic, finds, battles hard. He's just a very robust, likeable horse. And this race doesn't have a great deal of depth. That's why I think it's probably a better bet than Mighty Potter is for the Turners at similar prices. The Real Whacker, I give him a bit of respect, probably because he'll get a sole in front here. But Indigo Breeze didn't want to go by him, and that's what he's like. And he's probably about £20 inferior to Jerry Calum in reality. And Thunder Rock was further back when he beat Montmoral, and Jerry Calum beat Thunder Rock further. And Ollie Murphy said at Sandown, the Silly Isles, that was Thunder Rock's Gold Cup. So I can't see Jerry Calum being beat by the Real Whacker, who I think is the main danger, because that Cato Star race that Time Hill was in was probably the worst Grade 1 I've ever seen. Totally fell apart. The jumping from everything else was completely deplorable. And Time Hill, he was a high-class horse, but I mean, he just benefits from headgear, and he just picked up the pieces. He's not completely without a chance because I think it's that weak, and if they do overdo it in front, he'll just kind of hold in, and if he gets into a rhythm, he is dangerous. He's high class, but I just think they're going chasing a bit too late with him here. I think he's still prone to an error as well. So like him, Stage Star seems to be going Turners, and I do think that the danger might be Sir Gerhard. I think the trip's the right move for him. I think they went too quick for him. That's why he clouted everything. First day, but coming in here off one run, was very difficult. Even like experienced horses like Monkfish, you can sometimes kind of, look troubled by the kind of undulations and things, and look a bit unconvincing. So, and I don't think he's got much scope for offence. I don't think he's grown much since his hurdling days. I'd be a bit worried about that. So yeah, I do think it's Jerry Calum's to lose.
Craig, where are you at with the favourite, Jerry Calum? Do you go with him or do you take him on?
Massive swing and change of opinion after the Silly Isles. I thought he'd been very well placed to win a Grade 1 at Limerick. I thought he was a little bit short for the Silly Isles, but I was so impressed with the way he jumped. He got done for a little bit of speed at the latter stages of the race, but his stamina kicked in. He's going to be suited with a step up and trip. His jumping was a joy to watch. The Real Whacker, you have to applaud him in terms of the way he jumped when he won the Dipper. 2.5 round Cheltenham, looked for me to be his optimum. Stepping up the 3 miles, can he produce the same level of performance? That's the big question mark. I think Jerry Calum's Silly Isles, and for a Silly Isles, for him to clock the time he did, it makes him a standout performer here. It makes him the one to beat. Like Calum, I couldn't have Time Hill. I didn't like his Exeter performance first time up. He fell apart at Newbury second time, and the Cato Star, after the Skelton horse didn't jump the first, the race was falling apart at such an early stage. He doesn't scream a Brown Advisory RSA type to me, Tyne Hill. It's more an afterthought at his age, going novice chasing. Very much a Jerry Calum fan as well.
Yeah, and it's 4 votes for Jerry Calum. I think he's a good thing. I just think he's just getting better and better again. I'm not sure he's as ground dependent as you think. I think I learned a lot about him in Sandown as well when he beat us. I thought a lot of the time Balco Coastal was giving him a good race, but it was just the way he powered away. And Balco Coastal was a good horse who I'll maybe touch on in a wee minute, but I just think he's a good thing. I think he's been well. I think they've been careful with him as well. I think this race has a tendency to bottom a lot of horses. There's not many horses come out of this and done well in recent years, but I think this is an exception. I think he's been lightly racing compared to other horses. I think with the likes of the Three Stripe Life and Ginto, just examples like that, I think they really want to take care of this horse. maybe just because of obviously I think that their two horses they would maybe have aimed towards this race this year, but because Jerry Calum's there, I think they've been careful with him, and I think he's a good thing here. The interest in each way player for me here is Adamantly Chosen, who's been supplemented for this race. I think he could be a player here. 10-1 again. He finished second behind Mighty Potter the last day, but he looks to me like a really sound jumper, and I think the further the better. And could that mean that they could potentially, Mullins could have him and Sir Gerhard here? I just don't think. I know he's won two Cheltenham Festival races, but I can't have Sir Gerhard based on the last day. I just think, and he's not. They took him a while. There was talk that he wasn't going to make that season as well. I think I just have worries about Sir Gerhard, but I'm very much Jerry Calum, and I think he's a good thing, and he's probably the banker of the week for me. Probably the best anti-post play for me as well this week. So I'm very much Jerry Calum. Calum, very much Jerry Calum too.
Jerry Calum, each way I'll give Gala de Lato an interesting each way shout. She was really well back for the Cato Star. She's unbeaten going left-handed in soft ground, beat the Goffer and Warwick quite convincingly, and he came out and won subsequently for Elliot at the Dublin Racing Festival at Handicap. So if it was soft, I think she might be second best here.
Brilliant. Mark?
Quite interesting that you said Adamantly Chosen got supplemented, because I didn't know that. And I have a feeling Sir Gerhard's going to go to the Turners now. I think that's why that's been done. I'll be quite poor if Jerry Calum doesn't win.
Yeah, so will I. I'll be beans and toast for the week. Craig?
Yeah, Jerry Calum for me.
Jerry Calum, 4 votes for Jerry Calum. Let's move into the turners on the Thursday. Mighty Potter has looked really good this season. 11-8 favourites. Banbridge is 7-2. Appreciated 9-2. Sir Gerhard 7-1. Journey with Me, Stage Start and Balco Coastal 12-1. 16-1 bar. Calum, you have to be impressed with Mighty Potter. He's been very good this season. Is he a good thing at 11-8? Because there's a few horses in here you could take him on with at different prices.
He's the right favourite, but there's interesting opposition, and you have to remember his last trip to Cheltenham was, I know he made a mistake, and that was the reason why he beat. But he checked at the vet at the start. He crashed through a rail. Sometimes the best of like madness and their genius, and I think he's kind of one of these horses. He's a wee bit quirky, and there might be a wee chink in there when he travels. I'm getting kind of Envoy Allen vibes about him a little bit on the road. There is a chance that he might boil over, he might blow out, but what he's done so far, he deserves to be rightful favourite. I can see why he's so highly regarded. His attitude in the Drinmore, he landed very steeply oftentimes, and the way he got up, but he's his head down all the time and tries. And I think you love the hill. It's just whether he's going to get there or do something daft that Envoy Allen did. There is that niggling doubt of travelling there. There is just a wee slight question mark. Banbridge and Appreciate It are threats. Appreciate It more so in soft ground, and Banbridge in better ground. And I think the ground, whatever way it will ride, I think that'll probably develop as the main danger. And I think Henderson left Balco Coastal a little bit under against Jerry Calum, and if you really like Jerry Calum, then I think Balco Coastal will probably run quite well here each way. They're earmarking this instead of the plate. It's gone up to 151, and Nicky Henderson nicked this 2 years ago when Envoy Allen tumbled with Chantry House. So I'm just wary of history repeating himself in that. The Turners, Galloping Deschamps had it in the bag, tumbled, and I do think Mighty Potter is the best horse in the race, but could something untoward misfortunate happen? It's happened to horses that you'd expect less than Mighty Potter is. There is a body of work there that he is quirky, and he might do something. But at the moment, he's still the percentage call, because I really like the way he's done it the last 2 runs. But I haven't committed to anything yet, and see Star going here as well. He's going to make it a test from the front, which should suit Mighty Potter because he doesn't want to get there too soon. But there's just something in my back of mind here that something might go wrong, and I think that's why it's a little bit factored into the price.
Craig, I agree totally with Calum. I think it is on basis of this year. Mighty Potter's been exceptional, but you do have that wee doubt in your mind the way he was last year at Cheltenham. That's probably the only blemish in his record.
Yeah, I went back and watched that Supreme and paid more attention to him, before the start. And you look at him physically, You know, that was the biggest change for me. The way he's developed in the last 12 months. He looked an absolute shell of a horse 12 months ago. He's really developed. He's really filled out. He's a much stronger horse. He's a much more mature horse. But after he won at the Dublin Racing Festival, you know, I love sorting out the bad each way races. And this was sticking out as a bad each way race. I went and backed Journey With Me. I should have went and backed Bainbridge at that time each way as well. There was a little bit of doubt in terms of which race he would go for. And I would say he's more ground dependent, Banbridge, than Mighty Potter. That is the one concern. I think Banbridge is still probably one of the best each way bets of the week, because it's going to be impossible to knock him out the 3, but you just wouldn't want to see really soft ground for Banbridge. That would be the concern. I'm going to stick with him in the hope that it's no worse than good to soft. I think Banbridge is really solid. The way he ran on in the Irish Arkle, screaming out for an extra half mile, I think he's a knock in each way bet. There's no way he can be out the 3, providing the ground isn't too testing.
Brilliant. Mark, where are we with the Turners?
Well, I agree with everything everyone said about Mighty Potter. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to lay him, but I can't have him because all these little... I mean, he makes mistakes as well. He gives you a chance because he's not flawless as a jumper. He's good most of the time, but he makes mistakes. He's done what he did at Cheltenham last season. I don't know. I couldn't back him at that price. I backed Journey With Me already. I can't understand why they're not going here and giving it a go. I'll probably back Balco Coastal either without the favourite or each way. I liked his run last time. I thought he jumped really, really well. His jumping was brilliant. But so was Banbridge at Cheltenham when he won over 2 miles. Banbridge was really good in his jumping. Worry about soft ground for him if it came. I wouldn't back Appreciate It. He's too short for what he's achieved this season. He's been absolutely thrashed in that Arkle trial. And I'm not convinced, because they've all talked about him being a 2-miler, even though he looks like he wants to go up and trip. I'm not convinced he does either. So, yeah, Balco Coastal each way. Niggly doubts about Mighty Potter for me.
Can I just say I absolutely agree with Journey With Me. I don't know why they're not going here, because the form behind Impervious, I think, is fine. I think he would appreciate going down and trip a wee bit. I'm amazed they're not going this direction with Journey With Me. I think Appreciate It's the winner here. I'm just coming down to the angle that he's the best horse in this race. I know he's 9. I'm going to ask the question, if this was over 2, if the Irish Arkle was over a bit further, he'd have beat Banbridge easily. Banbridge was staying on. I Appreciate It. I don't think he handled it well at all. I think the ground was against him. Again, how's the ground going to be? If the ground's got soft in it, I think Appreciate It's the bet in this race. Again, Mighty Potter, I just can't have him at 11 to 8. I think he's a good horse. I think he's showed the most upside. I just think Appreciate It 9 to 2. I know he's 9. But he's always looked to me as if this is the perfect trip for him. And I think he's the bet here. I'm going to Appreciate It. And Balco Coastal each way. I think Balco Coastal will be certainly a player. I tipped him up for the plate. Then I saw his rating and immediately regretted it. They will go here. And I think he's got a chance each way. But again, it's such a hard race. But I think Appreciate It strong here. And I think they're making the right call going over this trip. So Appreciate It for me, Calum.
I think Mighty Potter will win, but I know there's going to be plenty of heart and mouth moments, but I think he can pull out the fire if he's there. So I will back him, but Balco Coastal each way I think is a better bet.
Balco Coastal. Craig?
Banbridge each way. A little bit
Banbridge.
naughty, but there you go.
Mark?
Balco Coastal each way for me as well.
Balco Coastal each way. We will go into some of the other hurdle and chase races. We'll start with the other hurdle races. I'm going to give the guys each as long as they want to tell us their best bet. We'll start with the chases, actually. We've got 6 chase races to talk about. Ultima, Cross Country, Grand Annual Plate, Kimmuir and the Hunter's Chase. And I'm going to let Craig go first. Give us your best bets for the 6 chase races that we haven't mentioned already.
Yeah, there's only 2 of those races that hit my radar at the moment, possibly 2.5 for the Grand Annual. But we'll start with the Ultima Day 1, 3 miles. Oscar Elite. Each way, 12 to 1 he is. He was third in the race last year. You know, they lined up right across the track. He was almost on the stands rail. He was ridden wide throughout. He absolutely tanked his way down the hill to take up the lead. Kicked on far too soon. They set the race up for an out-and-out stayer in Corach Rambler, who would have a chance again this time around, but, you know, totally different prep. Everything is being geared towards the national for him. I think Oscar Elite is, you know, a massive player. I think he's £1 higher than he was 12 months ago. The race is absolutely ideal for him. He comes here on the back of a real confidence boost by winning the Reynoldstown at Ascot. It didn't take too much out of him, that race either. So Oscar Elite in the Ultima. The other is the Kimmuir, a race I like, 3 miles too. Iron Bridge for John Joe O'Neill, a novice. Novices have won the last 4 renewals of the Kimmuir. He won at Carlisle earlier in the season, then won a little match or a walkover, if you like, in the end. And you know, I thought it was a real eye-catching prep over an inadequate trip at Warwick last time. Hunted out the back, never really put in the race. Not knocked about, hit the line strongly, crying out for a step up in 3 miles. John Joe's a master at Cheltenham Handicaps. He knew exactly what mark he needed to get in here. You know, they did the trick beautifully. They've left him open to improvement, stepping back up to 3 miles. I think he's a major player. And the half and thoughts I have in the Grand Annual at the moment, Unexpected Party, I think they've worked backwards in terms of their season from Cheltenham back, because, you know, he's never really been put in a race over fences yet. And he was a big eye catcher in the Timeform Novices Handicap on Trials Day. 2 miles probably is the question mark, dropping back in trip. But there's another one in there that I think can run well at a price as well. Red Rookie for Emma Lavelle, big price in the Arkle last year, and was running a decent race until coming down late. You know, wasn't knocked about at Sandown last time. You could tell that was a final prep for Cheltenham. I think he'd be interested in the Grand Annual. But the first 2 I mentioned would be the picks of the chasers for me. Iron Bridge and Oscar Elite.
Brilliant. Mark, yeah, other chase races, there's 6 to mention. Who you got?
Well, I don't know if I'll definitely back this one in the plate. It's got so many entries that I don't know where it's going. But I think Seddon was talked about as a really good horse for youngs when it was at all the other yards. And all of a sudden, it never did anything. And then all of a sudden, it went to John McConnell's. And it's won, pulling the cart twice this season. And I know it's not beaten much and it's been put up in the ratings, but I think he's finally producing what these other trainers were seeing. Joseph O'Brien, it was back off the boards numerous times under Joseph O'Brien. They produced nothing. And I think this horse is just finally producing what it's producing on the gallops, on the track. I'll back him in the plate if he's running in the plate. But with 5 entries, I don't know where he's going yet. And I'm going against Craig's pick in the Kimmuir. And I said I'm a Cromwell fanboy, but he had to win like he won at Sandown or he wouldn't have got into the Kimmuir. I backed him at 7-1. I really fancy Stumptown. I really fancy this horse. I mean, there's no search at Cheltenham. I think he had to get to about 133 to get in. He's got 135. He's got Barry O'Neill. His jumping was absolutely superb last time out. I know he's a short price now. I'm hoping he'll go a little bit bigger on the day and I can put him up as a bet, but he's too short to put up as a bet at the moment at 4-1. I think that's just, a lot of these markets are trying to stop you having a bet at the moment. I think prices will improve on the day. I hope to get about 5 to 1, 11-2 Stumptown, but I have backed him already. I think he's a good bet. I know he's short, but I think he's a good bet.
Brilliant.
That's
Calum,
my only 2.
Brilliant. Calum, who we got for the other chase races?
I'll fly through the chases. In the Ultima, I like Corach Rambler to follow up. They don't need to protect him up for the National now. The weights are out. If he was a 12-1 chance for the Grand National, he was a 12-1 chance in the Ultima last week, and now he's 6-1 favourite. So I think the price is probably gone on him, but I'm quite happy with that position there. So Monbeg Genius of John Joe O'Neill's in this race, as Craig was pointing out, he's a master of mapping things out. he's an unexposed 7-year-old, and he did this trick with Hollywell in 2014 when he won it. Really exciting from like Class 3 company and jumped up. He only had 5 runs in 2014. You know, one big genius, same age, same profile. He's only had 4. He's a prominent racer, and that tends to suit. So I could see him going well about 14s. The cross country, I think it's a duel, and I think the Vider and Galvin are very positive. He was 23 and 4th at a Gold Cup last year. I don't think his form's fallen off that much of a cliff since. Apparently schooled really well. I think Delta Work rather fell in against Tiger Roll. I thought the handicap, he absolutely in the year. I thought he missed the last 2 and he looked slow coming back. I think he really needs Jack Kennedy. I think he's been better over regulation fences. If you see his career, I think he's a fiddly horse, and I think Galvin might beat him for just a bit of class, and I think he just might lose his pace. So I would lean with Galvin over Delta Work there. Grand Daniel, Time White, Nichols, fresh angle. He was about second favourite last year before the ground turned into a bog. They sensibly took him out. He goes really well fresh. Won at Ascot. Reappearance and absolutely hacked up from Frere Bamboo, who was 3rd in the Grand Daniel last season before. He did this with Solar Impulse. He did this with Le President, 3-month absence, coming in young, relatively unexposed, and at a decent price. He's been clipped in from 25 to 16s, but I still think there's a bit of juice there. And my fancy of the Kim Muir's Knight and Lamborn of Ben Paulings. I think he's been laid out for this C&D. Like Jack Andrews is planned to take the ride for a long time, preserving a mark of 135. He laid out Global Citizen well to win the Grand Daniel. I think this is his horse that he's going to lay out for a handicap chase this year. And the Kim Muir, I think, again, he's been another that's been clipped in slightly at 14s, 16s. And I think he's definitely interesting. And whatever Mr. Christie runs in the Hunter's Chase, which is probably going to be Vosselet, I think that'll win as well.
Brilliant. I'm just going to run through mine quickly. In the Ultimate, I think the softer the ground, the more I'm leaning towards a horse that I've fallen off a cliff with in the past. The Big Breakaway, very hard to keep right, but I can see him running a big race in here if he gets in and runs on soft ground. Another I like in this race is a horse of Henry Daly's called Fortescue, who's got really good form over kind of good to soft ground. It runs off a mark of 140, I believe, and 140 for Henry Daly, age 9. Has had difficult runs in the past, but I'm willing to forgive him them. I think he could have a chance in the Ultima. Cross country, I'm very much with Calum. I think if it's good ground, I think you have to give the edge to Galvin. If it's soft ground, Delta Work. I wouldn't put anyone off Gin and Lime each way in that race either. I think she's got a wee chance as well. She's got good Cheltenham form. Grand Daniel, I am going with a Tizzard horse, Elixir the Nuts. Another kind of horse who likes soft ground, but has showed a good bit of form this year with second in the Game Spirit. It just looks a better horse this year than he has. Rouge Vif as well as another, I think, is well handicapped in the Grand Daniel. In the plate, I think So Scottish is a good thing, especially if the boy O'Sullivan gets £5 off him, which I think is probable. I think he could be a good thing in that race. I think 72 the now. I wouldn't put anyone off that. Kim Muir, I like to. Royal Thief for Henry de Bromhead, who run very well, winning off a break last time out. And Beauport, who has some form in the Dipper that was won by the Real Whacker. He finished 4th in that race. I think they're 2 interesting players in the Kim Muir. And in the Hunter's Chase, I'm with Calum. Fancy Vosselet strongly. And I wouldn't put anyone off a wee saver on Black Op each way, who's won 3 points this year already. So I wouldn't put anyone off him to show that he could still perhaps compete at a Cheltenham Festival. But that would be my play in the other chase races. Let's get into the other hurdle races. We've got 5 to talk about. Boodles, Coral Cup, Attempts, County Hurdle, Martin Pipe. Craig, I'll start with you again. What have we got for these races?
Again, just a couple. I think there's a lot of sorting out still to be done for the likes of the Coral Cup and Martin Pipe with horses, and even the County Hurdle. We're looking at engagements and where horses is going to run. The Pertemps, I think, is of interest. Obviously, different qualifying conditions this year that could make a difference. Fingal Bay was a winner of this race many moons ago after he won a qualifier at Exeter. Not many Pertemps winners actually win a qualifier because the handicapper usually has the say. They look a little bit exposed come the big day and they find it hard to defy the weight rise. So the fact that Walking on Air won the Exeter race this year hasn't gone up too much. I think he probably needed to win to get into the racing. In fairness, the step up to 3 miles has been the making of him. I think they've obviously planned this. Again, mapping his season backwards. I think he's well treated, and I think Nicky Henderson's in for a fantastic festival, and this could be a big handicap winner for him. And the other one I think is very interesting in the Boodles, Ben Paulin. You know, we're hoping that he has a couple of handicap winners, and he's got a horse called Bad. Yeah, we haven't seen him running on these shows yet. He's had 3 runs in France. You know, you can log on to France Gallop and watch his races, and you will be very, very impressed with his win last time. Held up out the back, you know, went past a big field like they were standing still, came hard onto the bridle when he hit the front, and then when he was joined again, he went through the gears and quickened away impressively. Circuit time was absolutely fantastic for that run in France. I believe he hasn't run because they're looking to protect his mark for Cheltenham. He's been well backed in recent days. I think there's still some double figures around. I think he's a really decent each way bet in the Boodles.
Brilliant. Calum, what is your thoughts on the other hurdle races this week?
Yeah, I'll fly through these. In the Boodles, I really like Takao. I think he would have been bang there on the finish in Grade 1 if Mark Walsh, bothered to go with Calum Arkle. It was one of the biggest non-trials ever. I mean, his initial 128, he's been given £7, 135. Still think he's probably at £10 to still play with. I think he's probably rightful favourite. I think Biker's a big danger though of Charles Burns's. He shaped well in that race at Sir Alan, one that's a pretty accurate historical pointer to win that. So I think the market's pretty correct there. The other one that I quite like, Coral Cup's San Salvador at 16-1 for Joseph O'Brien. I think they're really only kind of real handicap chance. Watch out going right-handed. He whipped away from a good 3-miler and held on at the line. So nice tactical to do, like a horse that kind of bursts away in a Coral Cup. Mrs. Milner did it to devastating effect, for instance. Young unexposed horses do quite well. I believe the Coral Cup is the target over the Martin Pipe to keep JJ Slevin aboard. Other one I quite like, Path de Rue in the County Hurdle. He's got good Grade 1 form. It was easy to forget that he went off 5-1 for the Royal Bon Marine National. Kind of went wrong, pulled up, but he quickly rectified that last time out by winning quite well at Navan. It's a race that's usually a decent pointer. Intranet unfortunately broke down for Willie Mullins. I think he would probably have been his County Hurdle horse without a shadow of a doubt that year. They were all kind of mapping out to get 3 runs in them. I think there's mileage off 141, and he's kind of the young novice, unexposed type that you quite like in that race. And in the Martin Pipe, I think Cool Survivor's probably the one for the Gordon Elliott yard there off 135. I thought it just ran for a mark, and then Nathaniel Lacey stayed on, showed a bit of pace to be 4th. And I don't think he was ever put into that race at all. So I think they'd be happy with that. And yeah, I think there's scope for him off that, Martin. He's around 8-1. So they'd be my best bets over the hurdles.
Brilliant. Mark, your best bets over the other hurdle races?
Yeah, the hurdle races are really difficult. I'll surprise you here. What do you think the average handicap winner went off at last season? The SP average of the handicap winners, 22-1. So it wasn't really the head of the market apart from Stateman. I really thought I'd found one for Thames a few weeks ago, Captain Morgs. I was really, really keen on him. Then Henderson pulled out walking on air. And I thought, well, that's going to be a danger. And then all of a sudden, this pipe horse comes out of nowhere at Chepstow in the final qualifier, gets a £12 hike just to get into the race on 128. I really worry about that. Thanks for the help. It looked an utter J. Plea pod. He's just got in the last qualifier. He's going to get in as the bottom weight. And he's absolutely bolted in. I don't know if you've seen that qualifier, but it was pulling a cart behind. It was getting eased down from the second last, just about. So, yeah, that's really worrying. But I loved Captain Morgs' win. I have to stick with him. I backed him at 20-1. I quite like him. And like Calum, well, there's 2 others. There's 2 Gigginstown handicappers I like. Cool Survivor for the Martin Pipe, I think, is the one for Calantra. I don't think it's a margin. They've been touting a margin all over the place on the preview nights. I think Cool Survivor's the one. And I liked Beacon Edge for the Coral Cup. I think Gigginstown have done this for a few years now. They've been taking horses who've not quite done it over fences, taking them back over hurdles of decent marks. And Cracking Smart got a really, really bad start and then flew into fourth. And then they won it last year with Commander of Fleet. I think Beacon Edge has got a chance in the Coral Cup as well. So that'd be my two. Three: Beacon Edge, Cool Survivor, and Captain Morgs.
Brilliant. I'll just run through mine quickly. In the Boodles, I'm with Calum. Calum's going to talk me into Takal. I think Takal could be the best horse in the race. I wouldn't put anyone off Jazzy Matty each way either. I think he's got scope to improve. He was obviously finished in front of Takal back in the past, but he's won. I think he's off 128. I think he could be well handicapped to hit the frame. Coral Cup, I don't really have anything that caught my eye. The one horse that I'm kind of settled on, whether he goes here or Martin Pipe, is Iroko for Oliver Greenall. I think he could be really, really interesting. He's only off 138, which I think he's well handicapped. Was really, really impressive the last time out in good ground. I think he could be a wee class angle there. I think you can get about 14-1 Coral Cup, about 16 Martin Pipe. I would back him in either of them, to be honest. Pertemps, I think Shoot First could just be very well in. I think he's probably the best horse in the race. I think he could be the Stairs Hurdle horse for Charles Burns next year. Botox Haas, I wouldn't put anyone off either. I've went to the mill with this horse a lot, and it was in the same qualifier as Shoot First, and it just looks a good player. Probably going to be off top weight. I think he's a good chance. County Hurdle, if Hunter's Yarn turns up, I think he's a good thing. I really like this horse. Followed him all season. Milkwood would be an each way player as well in that race. And I'm completely opposite. I think Imagine is my play in the Martin Pipe. I think he's been the plan all season. 135. He was third behind he was third behind on Hunter's Yarn, and I like the way you're thinking. I think he could be 135. I think is fine for him here. And that is my handicap players in the hurdles. Finally, before we wrap up the show, the final segment of the show, we are going to get everyone's best bet, their lay and their each way. And I'm going to start with Calum. Your best bet, your lay, and your each way for the Cheltenham Festival 2023.
Best bet is Shoot First in the Pertemps. Charles Burns says that he's the next year's Stairs Hurdle horse, apparently, in his Dubai circuit. And I think they're more confident about him than Blazing Cal. Best each way, Time White in the Grand Annual, and my lay would be Lucia in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle.
Brilliant. Craig, Forsyth, your best bet, your lay, and your each way of the Cheltenham Festival.
I'm going to go with Edwardstone in the Queen Mother Champion Chase as my best bet. For the lay, I'm going for the National Hunt Chase and Gala du Mesnil. And for the each way, I really like Ironbridge in the Kim Muir.
Brilliant. Mark, best bet, lay, and each way, please.
Best bet, Jerry Colomb. Each way in the pocket, and lay Vossily.
Brilliant. And my best bet is going to be Jerry Calum. My lay of the meeting is Blazing Cow in the Stairs. And my each way, I'm going to go with Let's Be Clear About It in the Albert Bartlett. And that is, we're going to wrap up the show there. It has been an absolute pleasure to go through this. Calum, first of all, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much. Always great talking horse racing.
Brilliant. Craig, Forsyth, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for the invite, guys. I've enjoyed it. Sharing thoughts with you, and good luck to everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Mark MacKay, been a pleasure again. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much for inviting me on, Scott. Good luck next week to all the guys.
Brilliant. Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. Good luck for the festival, and we will be back. We'll do a wee review show the week after Cheltenham, and best of luck and enjoy your week.